guys, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and kick off our professional development workshop. So excited to see everybody this morning. My name is Elena Hill. I have the privilege of serving as the president of the NSA Houston chapter. Super excited to be surrounded by the brilliance of those who are around here. And boy, you can set your watch to my gardeners because they just decided to cut right outside my window. So I hope you guys can hear me. I mean, literally, as soon as I started talking. Okay, good. There they passed by. The beauty of working from home. So here we are again on Zoom and excited to see each other. And I want to first and foremost acknowledge our guests who are here to visit with us for the very first time. You don't have to do dishes today. Where are our visitors? If you could please turn on your video as well. I was going to ask everybody if you could turn on your video just as we kick off. Feel free to turn it off later if you need to. But as we kick off so that we get that connection as well, that is one of the incredible benefits of being together on a Saturday morning. If your lipstick's on crooked, don't worry about it. If your hat's crooked, don't worry about it. We are not here to judge. But so if I can get our visitors to give me a little hello in the window, or you can use your Zoom reactions, however you want to do to acknowledge your presence, because we're grateful that you're here. We're glad to see you. We hope that you'll stick around and get some more information about our fabulous chapter, what membership entails and involves, and how you can grow and develop by being a member of NSA Houston. So we're glad that you're here, and we want to do our best to answer any questions that you have about our chapter and about the National Speakers Association in general. So our guests are here, so we're happy that you are here, but I also want to acknowledge any new members that we have. Who do we have with us that has recently joined our chapter within the past this membership year? If this is your first membership year, give us a wave. All right. Hey, Michael, see you over there. Hey, Amy Hart, good to see you. Alyssa, Gwen. Let's see who else. Keep going because I want to call your names. Dean, oh, Deanne, okay, she's clapping for them. Yeah, no, I got you. She's clapping for them. Where are the rest of my new members? Let's see. Who did I miss? All right, okay. And you guys know this is how we Zoom, right? You have to go around and make sure that you acknowledge people. All right, so happy to see you guys here. You know, we also have some people who have joined our Speakers Academy. Our Speakers Academy is a great opportunity to grow and develop as a speaker, as a new speaker. And by new speaker, I mean new to the speaking business. Often people, you know, come to the Academy, they've been speaking, but now they want to understand more about the business of speaking. How do you make money speaking, and how do you make a lot of it, right? So we've got some Academy members on. Give me a little here and a reaction for our Academy members. Rob, do you have... Am I missing anybody? Any Academy members here this morning? No? Okay, awesome. All right. And so registration is open for our Academy, and you'll hear some more announcements about that as we close our programming. But we also, well, I introduced myself as the president of the chapter, but you know, none of this would happen without teamwork, because teamwork makes the dream work. And I'm so grateful for the incredible leadership team that we have at our chapter. But presented by our board of directors. So those of you who are on our board of directors, please give a big hands up. Do this. Let me see you do this. Our board of directors. There you go. So as you guys look around, you can see people who are leading. Kim, what? Come on, Kim. All right, there you go. We wouldn't even be here this morning without Kim, and she's all like, no. Okay, so our board of directors really helps. We meet together, we make decisions about the board, we take your input, see what it is that you want from programming, how you want to grow and develop your speaking business, and then we do our best to make sure that we deliver on those promises. And so we're really excited. And one of the really neat things about our board is that we've got a great variety. We have a great representation of speaking experience, right? So we've got CSPs who are our certified speaking professionals that help guide and direct us as well. And the certified speaking professional is a designation that is earned by, I think the percentage changes, but it's about 12% of professional speakers worldwide. That number is floating because as CSPs come in, and it is one of the honors that certifications or honors that you receive in the National Speakers Association. So for our CSPs that are on here, let me see you do this. Let's do this. Where are my CSPs? All right, we've got Michelle, we've got Karen, we've got Amy. All right, our CSPs, the Certified Speaking Professionals. You can find out more about how to how to acquire the certified speaking professional designation. We're so excited that we have speakers that are in our chapter that are professional speakers, they're professional members. That means that they make their business, they make their they make their business. Their business is speaking, and they make money doing that. So for our professional members, go ahead and I'm also going to have you wave your hand. So wave your hands, and I'm waving mine. I'm a professional member. Where are professional members? Awesome, awesome. I see Amy Climer, Deanna Sullivan. Hey, Redia. And let me see Charlotte. I see Charlotte on there. Got Dr. Rob. All right, wanted to make sure I acknowledge that. If I missed your name, I apologize, but these are our professional speakers who really help demonstrate the importance of some of the speaking, a part of the speaking business. We also have within NSA, and I did this a little out of order because I usually do professional members and then CSP, because I want you to understand kind of the ladder of growth. But the highest designation that we have within the National Speakers Association is the CPAE. And the CPAE is basically our Speaker Hall of Fame. And there's a process that happens. We don't have any present today, but I wanted to acknowledge that there is such an honor and designation within our association, and it is something that many of us aspire to. So do we have one in our chapter? Isn't it? No, Ed's not a CPA, he's a CSP. And we've had certainly CPAEs come in and speak to our chapter as well. So again, depending on people's longevity, their progress as speakers, we have different ways of acknowledging that within the National Speakers Association, because we are a professional association dedicated to helping speakers grow their speaking business. And one of the neat things about NSA, and I have to say this and just kind of share this, the first time I came to NSA, it was actually Todd DeWitt, and we actually communicate pretty regularly on LinkedIn. And so you get to see the demonstration of each other's topic, what their expertise is, while also creating these fabulous relationships. Some of our best friends and greatest relationships are right here in the chapter. So we're about business because business is important, but we're also about connection. We do life together, so we celebrate each other's wins and victories. As I shared beforehand, having a senior in high school, and so we pretty much, without getting too much into each other's business, but we are here to support and encourage one another. Our theme this year is adapting together, because we all know that we're going through some incredible changes, and we're going to be stronger together, supporting one another in our businesses. So really, really excited and thankful to be a part of such a great collection and cohesive group of people. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to our Vice President of Programming, because she is going to introduce our fabulous speaker for today, and we're going to get going with our program. Everybody good with that? Give me a yay! Let's go. All right, Kim Davis, they are yours.
All right, thank you, Elena, and thank you guys for showing up today, and thank you so much for all of you who have your cameras turned on. If you're moving and you can't, I understand, but it's also really great when we can see you and the presenter can see you. So I'm going to begin with a few questions. Do you want to lead engaging virtual sessions? Yeah, okay. Do you want your sessions to be more interactive and experiential? All right, well, do you want your clients to say, this was the best virtual program ever? Well, if you answered yes to any of those, then you are in the right place. Our speaker today has led 91 virtual trainings, and that's just in 2020. She has worked with hundreds of speakers and trainers, helping them transition to the virtual space. When not working with speakers, she teaches teams how to be innovative. Her clients have included the Mayo Clinic, Stanford University, and the Department of Homeland Security. She is the host of the Deliberative Creative podcast and creator of Virtual Climber Cards, a new tool we will be using today. That's cool. When not working, she can be found building something in her wood shop or hiking in the Appalachian Mountains. Today, she is going to share with us strategies, tools, and tips to help us lead engaging and virtual programs. Please join me in welcoming from Asheville, North Carolina, speaker, podcast host, and do-it-yourself addict, Dr. Amy Climer. Yay!
Ooh, hi everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
So good to be with you all today. All right, y'all ready to get into this virtual space understand virtual training even deeper. I want to first say thank you to Kim for bringing me in, and thank you to Karen for recommending me to come in. I'm really happy to be here. I am part of the NSA Carolinas chapter, so it's kind of always fun to see like what's happening across the country. So today we are going to spend some time looking at how to make your virtual programs even better. And there are a zillion ways to do this. And so I'm just going to share with you a bunch of ideas and tips and techniques and tools that you can use. And we'll spend some time practicing some of those and playing with some of those. So this will be a bit interactive, and you'll have a chance to talk with each other and even doing a little moving around. So just first, a quick logistic piece. If you are in gallery view, you'll see that I'm sharing my screen through my video feed rather than like the actual typical screen share. So if you just click over to speaker view, you'll see my screen full, and feel free to move back and forth, whatever works for you. Sometimes I find that when I'm in learning mode, it's nice to be watching in speaker mode because then I'm not distracted by all the other people. But then when I'm presenting, like I want to see everybody's face. So play with that, do what works best for you. By the way, I also have the chat open. I'm pretty good at paying attention to that. Feel free to share some things in there as we go along. In fact, we're going to jump into that pretty quickly. But first, I just want to share what was interesting for me that happened to me as we moved into this pandemic back in March. So in March, kind of like everybody, it was like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? A bunch of in-person programs were canceled, like I'm sure many of you. But then I kept getting these emails and calls from friends and clients and colleagues, and they were saying, hey, Amy, I know you've been doing this virtual thing for a while. I have to take my program and make it into a webinar, and I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And at first I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And then pretty soon it was like too many people. Like, wait a minute, what, am I like the Zoom expert or something? And it was a great lesson because you should pay attention to what questions people are asking you or what advice they're asking you when they're like, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I take you out for coffee? That's a sign that, oh, maybe this is something I should do professionally. So that's what I did. I made a small pivot, and for the last, 6 months in or so, 7-8 months, that I've been teaching other speakers and trainers how to do this virtual thing better. Not so much Zoom 101, because I feel like, yeah, just go to their website and watch the free videos. They're simple, great. But really, like, how do you do it well? So I know last month you all had the opportunity to learn from Marquesa, and I had the chance to watch that replay, and she really talked about what are some of the ways you can bring income in through doing virtual programs. And so hopefully you're feeling motivated and ready to start developing some of those programs. So we're going to look at the details of that. So I want you to, if you haven't already yet, find the chat box. And in the chat box, all in one reply, I want you to put your name and what are the topics that you speak on. What's your name and the topics that you speak on? I just want to know who's here. I see everybody's name, but I'm curious, like, what do you all talk about? And just, 1 or 2 words. It doesn't have to be, and make sure you're putting that to everybody if you'd like. All right. So Alana speaks on, is it Alana or Elena? Where are you? Elena?
Elena, yeah.
Elena, okay. All right, so change leadership, awesome. That's one of my areas as well. Jill's also leadership, team effectiveness. Yeah, I do some of that. Amy, developing leaders and team. Amy Castro, Amy Hart is leadership and communication. Okay, 3 Amy's here. I think we're doing pretty good today. This is pretty awesome. Rob is about stress and conflict. Kim, also leadership engagement. D&I, Alyssa, inclusion and community. I'm not going to read every single one. I love it. Actually, there's a lot of you all, a lot of us, I should say, are focused on leadership skills. Randy's doing some dining etiquette. That's awesome. All right, cool. Amy's rule. That's right. Christina, divorce parenting, validation. Christina, I'm going to give you just a heads up. I have quoted you later on in the presentation, something that you said in Marquesas. I pulled it in. So heads up, that's coming probably in a good hour or two. But all right. Yeah, Jill, exactly. There's a lot of people teaching leadership because it's needed, isn't it? Yeah, really great point. All right, so let me just talk about what to expect today. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't yet, go grab just pencil and paper so that you can take some notes today. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas, and I think it's going to be probably too much to just keep in your head. So if you don't have pencil and paper available, feel free to stand up, walk across the room, whatever you need to do to grab it. And that goes along like, do what you need to do today to learn well. I love being able to see you on video, but if for some reason you're finding that distracting, you need to, I don't know, walk off screen for a minute, like do what you need to do. You're adults, take care of yourself. We are going to take a couple of breaks today, so you'll have time to, take care of whatever business you need to off screen, but still, like, do what you need to do to learn well. If you want to like move and sit on the floor or stand up and pace around the room, like it's all good with me. Yeah, and by the way, I say this in person too. So yeah, so do what you need to do. We are going to take a couple of breaks today. I am a fan of taking a break just about every hour when we're doing virtual. In person, I feel like you can stretch it to about an hour and a half, but I've found if you take a shorter break every hour, then it just helps keep the energy up. So we're going to do that. Hopefully there's no objections to that. Also, at the end, I'm going to share, there's a number of resources because we're just going to scratch the surface. And I'll email you these resources afterwards. And if you want them anyway. So there's the QR code, there's a link on the screen. I'll share this again later, but just want you to have that if you want to get some resources. And I'll talk more about the specifics of what those are at the end. In fact, let me put that link in the chat so you don't have to. I thought I had it all ready to copy paste, but I didn't. So bear with me as I type it in there for you all. But there it is. It's in the chat. So some resources are available. All right. Now I'm throwing this, I wanted to share this slide, some thoughts about Zoom etiquette, not because you all don't know, because at this point it's almost like, I used to say this a lot back in April, May, June, and now I'm like, yeah, we got it. But what I'm finding is that there's some people that still need this, and I wanted to share this more as an example of what you might do, but depending on the group you're working with. I mean, we all know there's some groups that like high tech skills and some are pretty low. So one of the challenges that I've found when, especially at this point, now that we're understand Zoom well, is not that people aren't muting themselves, but they're not unmuting themselves. So I just want to open this up to say, feel free to unmute yourself at any point, ask a question. You're not going to like throw me off or anything. I mean, this is a small group. I think of this as like, we're all hanging out in a room together. So feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question or add something. Yeah, being present, doing whatever you need to do, like I said before, to learn well. Yeah, don't take us to the bathroom with you. Who's seen the video of the woman that took her team to the bathroom? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, I later learned after like cracking up about that was actually a Saturday Night Live skit. But I had some students in my class who said, no, that actually happened to one of their team members, where their team member really took someone to the bathroom. So, and then this last one, you wouldn't think you have to tell people to wear clothes on a Zoom meeting, but I was in a Zoom meeting with I'm on this board of directors, the local nonprofit, and this guy shows up without a shirt, and he's sitting there like this, he's about 70, he's sitting there the whole meeting without his shirt on, and somebody called him out on it, and he said, hey, do you have on any other clothes? And he said, yeah, I've got on shoes. And I'm like, this is not appropriate or professional. So I didn't know you had to tell people to wear clothes, but yeah, just wear clothes, It's so totally cool to have your pajamas on the bottom, if you ask me, but at least wear something. So you might have to tell people that and have an awkward conversation, right? Anyway, all right. I want to know, before we get too far, what is your skill set? So Kim is going to throw up a poll right now, and I just want to know, what's your experience with leading virtual programs. Now, I'm not talking about like you jump on a one-on-one meeting with a client, but rather you're leading like a webinar or training or something. Maybe you're sharing some expertise, you're facilitating. Throw in there, what's your experience with leading virtual programs so we can see where everybody's at. Awesome. Almost everyone. All right, we've got actually a fairly, kind of like a good mix here. All right, we're gonna close the poll in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Kim, if you could close that and then share the results with everybody. All right, so you all, I gotta give you props. This is the first time I have asked this question where nobody said they hadn't led anything yet. So you all, like, props to you that everybody here has led at least one program. Yeah, that's awesome. And about half of you have led less than 15, so it's fairly new, probably still kind of figuring, not you're figuring it out, not like it's brand new, but you know, you're not to the point yet where it's like automatic. And then 4 of you have said you've led over 75 virtual programs, which is awesome. I definitely think of, especially when I'm presenting at NSA, like there is a lot of knowledge and experience in the room. So please bring what you have and share. But that's helpful to get a sense of like where everybody's at. And I'm excited. So this is great because everybody's led at least one program. This also means we've gotten the basics out of the way. Now let's look at some of the more advanced stuff. So what are you most curious about regarding virtual programs? I just want you to throw in the chat, like think about what is it that you'd want to learn today? What are you most curious about? And we will spend some time looking at that. So take a moment and throw in the chat there. Mm-hmm. All right, great. They're coming in. Getting audiences engaged, engagement tools and methods, interactivity, engagement. How do you sum it up? Karen, yeah, we could talk about that. How to use something to help me share slides. It's not the A10 Mini. I gotta tell you, Karen, I wasn't impressed with the A10 Mini. I got it, and it was not my favorite tool. Engaged, fun, bring me back, engaged, and quizzing ideas. Okay, we can do that. Engagement beyond breakouts. All right, so a lot around engagement. Well, that's good. That's sort of what I was planning to talk about. So that's always helpful. So I want to ask a question. I was thinking about this yesterday. I am curious, what do you mean when you say the word engagement? Because what I've learned is there's a vast understanding or vast ideas of like, oh, this is engaging or this isn't. So if anyone's willing to just, unmute yourself, you can kind of like wave your hand in front of the camera and that's a way for me to call on you. Yeah, Michael, what are your thoughts?
Well, I did a retreat recently and we had breakout groups. So we had small groups, but there were like 6 people in the room and there were 3 that would talk and 3 that even when you called on them would not say anything. So I didn't know, they didn't have their actual, they might have been out of the room, but still getting credit. But I just wanted to find a way to make sure everybody could stay in participation.
Okay, and just to clarify, were you saying this was a small group?
Yeah, it was a large group, and then we did small group breakout rooms. So 6 people total in the breakout room, and still, it's hard when there's only 2 or 3 people talking, and your idea is to get everybody connected.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like they had walked away if their video wasn't on, and yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, Karen.
So I've been doing a lot of, I guess we call them keynotes. They're just programs where the client is on Zoom. So I'm the co-host. And for me, I've learned so much from you. The first thing I've learned is I have to connect right off the bat. So I have to start right off the bat, getting them answering and getting them engaged. And they're not going to talk, but they're going to chat. And so for me, the engagement is getting them to participate through chats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially if you are in that like webinar style where you can't see them, you can't do breakout rooms. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks, Karen. Christina, did you have something?
Yeah. So when I do live trainings, I do a lot of moving around the room, a lot of direct engagement, getting people to talk to each other. And so how is it that you replicate that in kind of a virtual environment when you have bigger groups? So I train family lawyers who tend to kind of sit back anyway. And so getting them to kind of move out of their comfort zone, especially since a lot of what I offer is, you know, engagement skills, you know, teaching them to talk differently, communicate differently with clients.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think you'll get some ideas for that today for sure.
Awesome.
What else? Any other different ideas or definitions of engagement? Let me just look at the chat real quick. Deanna says people are participating in the talk, meaning like people are actually talking. Yeah. Is that what you mean, Deanna? Yeah. Okay. Alyssa says getting people engaged who feel forced to attend. Yeah, that's super common, right? Especially anything that's like work related, you know, everyone's told to show up. So, okay. Charlotte, I might need you to explain that. I'm using a batting lineup approach. Where's Charlotte?
Right here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. So the very first online class I did, I kind of did it as I would in person, where it was a breakout, and I just would say, hey, so what do you guys think? And it was crickets. It was terrible. Nobody responded, or everybody unmuted and responded. So it was terrible also. So this idea of the batting lineup, I'm not a baseball fan, but I thought about this, literally saying, okay, Amy, I'm going to come to you first. Elena, I'll be coming to you next. And then Karen, be ready. And then I throw out a question. So that way nobody was caught off guard, and people, the engagement went from 0 to literally 100. People weren't thrown off guard. They were able to prepare. I only went 3 at a time. I literally keep this checklist. So I'll list everybody's names and literally check off. And then it helps for not, overstepping and calling on somebody too frequently. So that has made the world of difference. Feedback has been great, and that helps a whole lot.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. And I think it sounds like, the context you're using it in, that could work really well. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any last things about engagement and what you mean by it? Yeah, Deanna. Can't hear you. Is it just me? You're not muted. Can you guys hear her? Okay. Yeah. Maybe change your mic. That little arrow next to the mute button, if you click on it, you can select a different microphone. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Do you have a mic? No, do you have a mic plugged into your computer?
Maybe put it in the chat box.
Yeah. Maybe throw it in the chat for now, and then you can play with that. It could be that if you have an external monitor, that it's thinking that your external monitor is your mic, or if you have, that's it. Yeah, so if you click on that little arrow next to the mute button, you can choose which mic, and then you can choose a different mic. All right, we're gonna go on and let you keep playing with that. Feel free to interrupt as you try to test it out. All right, so this is helpful. So I think you're gonna get some ideas on all the things that you said for engagement, and keep asking questions as we go so that we can make sure that you really are getting those, what you need. So let's just talk a little bit about why bother. Like, why even bother spending all this time looking at virtual sessions? I mean, and it's interesting. I think at this point into the pandemic, we get that this isn't going away really soon. Some of you might have been watching the NSA Facebook conversation, like the national conversation back in April, and there were definitely some people who were like, yeah, I'm just going to come back, I'm just going to take a couple months off. And obviously that didn't work out, right? Because in June, we're still full on pandemic. And I mean, I'm not planning to fly anywhere, at least for the rest of this year. And who knows what 2021 will bring. But there's another piece to it, and that just to give you some stats, in December 2019, Zoom had 10 million user instances of Zoom. So for instance, right now we have 21 participants, 21 people on this call. So that's 21 uses of Zoom. So 10 million uses in December 2019. In March 2020, there were 200 million uses. And then in April 2020, there were 300 million uses. So we have whatever the math is, 30-fold from December to April. And my guess is that it's even higher now. But what I think is interesting is that now we all have these Zoom skills. We get it. We understand how to use it. I'm no longer teaching anybody how to use it, find a mute button, right? I mean, even my mom, who's retired and 75, knows where her mute button is. But what's going to happen is once this pandemic is over, yeah, of course, we're going to go back to having in-person conferences and meetings, and we're going to be so happy about that, but we will never go back to the number we had in December 2019. I believe that moving forward, we are always going to have more virtual trainings, more virtual meetings than we ever did in the past. Because why not? We're learning that there's so many great things about it. Even just where I might have met somebody for coffee, that lives across town, depending on that context, I might just say hey, yeah, let's just jump on a Zoom call. I don't need to get in my car and drive 15, 30 minutes across town just to have a coffee with somebody. Now, granted, I still will do that, right? But in the same thing, you can have these, people from all around the world engaging in a conference. And I think we're going to continue to see a lot more virtual even when this pandemic is over. So it is super, super important as a speaker, as a professional, that you get these skills so that you can do whatever. Yeah, you want me to do virtual? I can do virtual. You want me to do in person? Sure, I can do in person. No worries. And so I think just being able to be flexible is super important. Now, what I've noticed in virtual sessions, definitely earlier on, but I'm still noticing this, that even though we now have some collective skills around virtual meetings and trainings, that the quality is quite wide ranging. So there are some programs where I feel like the virtual sessions are just downright painful. And these are the sessions that I actually am feeling physical body pain because I have to sit there and supposedly try to pay attention. And it's just, I don't know, it's sort of weird. I actually feel pain in my legs and my back. I just want to leave. Who's had a session like that where you could just feel, yeah, okay, I see some hands up. Yeah, it's not just me. Obviously, we want to avoid these at all costs. But after that, the sessions, some are tolerable. They're fine. It's not I'm overly impressed or overly engaged, but I'm getting something out of it, I suppose. From there, we move into sessions that are good. Okay, this is decent. This is fine. And then the top level, what I think that we should be aiming for is sessions that are better than in person. Who's been a part of a session that was better than in person? It's not that common, but it happens. I've been a part of that, and it's this is cool. Because there are things you can do in a virtual space that you can't do in person. Or that you do it differently, and maybe it's actually clunkier in person. There's some software that I've been using and I'm learning and using with some clients called Mural. And I've decided when we come back to in person, I'm gonna have everybody bring their laptop. We're all gonna be there in Mural together, live in the moment, because it is so slick and it's a great tool for collaboration. So there are some things you can do virtually. So I want you to think about a recent session that you either led or were a part of. And where would you rate that session? Something within the last couple of weeks. Where would you put it on the scale right now? Go ahead and throw that in the chat box. Let's see where we're at. Karen, did you really buy Zoom stock in 2019? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Let's see. Okay, we're seeing a lot of good. Elena, better than in person. That's awesome. We have tolerable. Last session was good, 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 good. Okay, so a blend. Yes, Karen, do you have a question? No. Oh, you're just moving your hand. All right, sweet. I'm just also looking at the comments from before. Okay, Charlotte is saying, like, what if you're not on Zoom and you're using a different platform? Microsoft Teams, Adobe Connect, whatever. Yeah. Most of what I'm going to share today, most of what I share in general, I like to think of myself as being mostly platform agnostic. I use Zoom, I know Zoom the most, but most of the tips and the tools and stuff you can use in any context. I think that Zoom is easy, and they've like responded in a really positive way to what's happening and the increased need. Some of the other software is a little bit clunkier, but it's getting better. I mean, even Microsoft Teams, they've made some nice changes in the last few months. So yeah, most of what I'm going to share you can use in any platform. Awesome. Yeah, MS Teams, I do agree with you, Gwen. It's a little bit painful. All right, so it sounds like we have like a good range, but I don't think anybody said painful. Okay, so that's encouraging. This is, you all, again, you're like having better experiences than most of the groups I work with. So I want you to think about the best virtual experience you've had, like ever, whether it was in the last 6 months or sometimes before, the best virtual experience you've had. And just thinking privately in your head, what made that good? So I don't want you to put that in the chat. Instead, what you're going to do is I want you to go grab, not yet, but in a moment, I'm going to give you 1 minute to grab an object that in some way symbolizes that virtual experience. Then you're going to bring it back, and we're actually going to breakout sessions and talk about that. So ready, go. Go grab a physical object that represents, that symbolizes that amazing virtual experience that you had. And just keep it, you're going to share that in your small group, so you can just keep it in your lap or whatever. And is Kim still here? Kim, we're going to go into breakouts. And if you could do like 3 people per breakout.
Okay.
Or 2 to 3.
All right.
Don't send it yet, but you can go ahead and get it set up.
Okay.
Hey, Deanna, while everyone's working, did you get your mic working yet? You're muted now. Nope.
We heard it earlier.
You could also try leaving and coming back in if you want. All right, hopefully that'll work. All right, is everyone back? Almost. Redia, is it Redia? Am I saying that right? Does anyone know?
Redia, I think.
Redia. All right, here we go. Kim is going to send us off, into breakout sessions. But first, I might have jumped the gun there. In the session, I want you to have this conversation. Each person spend 1 minute sharing what object they selected and why. So you could talk about that program. And then if somebody else in the session could just grab their phone or some stopwatch and just keep time for a minute. And the purpose of the time is twofold. One, the obvious, like, so the person doesn't talk too much, because sometimes, we don't know how much we're talking. And then, but the second is that you go into enough depth, right? So a full minute would be nice. And we're going to say the person with the shortest hair goes first. And if you have any extra time, you can just keep talking about those virtual sessions that you had. And we're going to give you about 5 minutes total in your breakout room. So Kim,
ready?
It's all you.
Okay.
Welcome back. Is it Garetta?
You muted, Garetta.
Thank you. I'm one of those people.
You got it. Greta, your color keeps changing. Like, what's going on there? Is there like a light that's kind of fun? I like it.
Actually, no, I'm not. I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
It must be the
My hair
reflection.
looks purple.
Yeah, it must be the reflection from the computer because sometimes it looks blue, sometimes it looks purple.
Pink, purple.
Yeah.
It looks-
Is that better?
No, I don't think it looks great. It's sort of like you're in a disco or something.
The problem is I've only got a few places in my house where I can sit where the internet's stable.
Oh,
And they all
wow.
have windows around them.
Oh, yeah.
I keep trying to find where to sit.
That's funny. Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. Wanted to just, how was it? Good conversation? Woohoo, I see a bunch of smiles. So we're going to take a break in a few minutes, but before we do that, I want to just open it up. What, just any reflections or insights about going into the breakout or the activity that we just did, particularly in relation to your work. So what worked there? What did you like? Charlotte.
I like Michael Winters had a great observation in our group. He talked about you, Amy, and he said, look how she changes everything up. First we're in the chat, then we're doing a poll, then she has us talk, and it keeps us going. And I realized that was brilliant. Yes. So I like that whole idea. Thanks, Michael.
And thanks for sharing that, Karen. Completely intentional, right? Like my goal is that just about every 10 minutes, something different is happening. Because like all of this we could have just done in the chat, but it gets a little old, especially in a 3-hour program. So yeah, thanks for saying that, Karen. We're gonna go to Charlotte and then Rob and then Deanna. Charlotte.
So I was delighted. Wynn and I were in with Amy, and the fact that it was a breakout into the room, but it wasn't around like, here's this question, discuss it, or here's this, like written exercise. This idea of grabbing an object and then talking about that, what spurred this thinking about this event, what made it, better than great. So that engagement, get up, go physically find a thing, giving us time to do that, come back and talk about it. So it added a whole different dimension to the breakouts that like spurred some extra thinking for me. So thank you for that.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. And I do think that we forget, because Charlotte and Wynn and I were talking about that, we forget that, we think, oh, we just have this little box here, but actually we have all of this space that we're living in. And this activity, it would be much harder to do in person, because you'd have to send people an email in advance. Don't forget to bring an object that represents blah, blah, blah. But here it's like, everybody has something, no matter where they're at, even if they're like sitting in their car or something, they can pull something out, right? So I think it's important to remember we have all this space that we wouldn't normally have. All right, Rob.
I really like what Alana said, made a point for me very powerfully. Engagement is doing, touching. So that's just a phraseology that reinforces what Charlotte was just saying and what you're having us do.
Awesome. Thanks. And then who was now? Oh, Deanna, I think.
Okay, so we talked about doing, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have no idea what was going on. And that's what's so frustrating to me is I don't know what's going on, and I try things and, most of the time people are very gracious. So we talked about how critical it was to get people to do something. And I love Christina said, just remember. So we talked about a Zig who said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. So making them feel important, making them feel special, getting them to act. And then Christina said, remember, they're not going to remember when they leave. They don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And so in engaging and getting them to do some activities makes them feel a part of this process. And we've got to get that in our brains. We're not disseminating. In a live session, we would be interacting and making them feel special. We've still got to make them feel special in a virtual session.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Other thoughts right now before we move on? Okay. Yeah, I think there's a couple things I want to break down that I did, just so that for you to think about as you're setting up a virtual or a breakout session. So the first is, when I had you, in fact, let me share my slides again. When I had you, oops. Okay, so first was like, here's the one piece of direction, right? I'm giving them one thing to do, giving them time to do it while I'll be honest with you. I always forget to time. Like I'm like, oh, 60 seconds. I never remember. So I just watch, I'm watching the screen to see when people come back. Right. And then it feels like, okay, it's about a minute. Most people are here. Then I'm moving into giving the next set of directions, and I'm very explicit about what they're going to do. So you're going to have 1 minute to share. I've talked about how much each person's going to talk. Now, you don't need to always do that. It depends on, you don't always have to give a time, but it made sense in this situation since each person is supposed to share something. Suggested a stopwatch timer. Just curious, who actually did that? Raise your hand if in your group, someone, okay, about half of you. All right, good. And then here's who's going to go first. And I just throw something silly in there. It could be anything. Sometimes I'll say, whoever's wearing the most interesting shoes, that works a little better in person, although that can be kind of funny, and like chances are almost no one's wearing shoes, but y'all, I haven't worn shoes to work since March. So, and then just what to do after you're done. So I'm very specific. Now, one of the things I didn't say to you all that I forgot, that sometimes I could say, is just, if you want these directions while you're in there, if you feel like you might forget them, take a quick screenshot, because they're going to go away, right? So these directions are fairly simple, but if you're giving more in-depth directions, you might do that. Or you could throw them in the chat real quick and tell people to copy and paste them. You can also, while people are in breakout rooms, you can send them a note. You can send them a message that'll pop up on their screen. But the problem with that is it only stays up for about 10, 15 seconds or something. And so they're not going to have time to read all these directions. So it's a great, be like, hey, 3 minutes left, but you don't want to give them a lot of directions that way. So anyway, but the point is just be real explicit and clear what you want people to do. And I also kept it short. Now, there is a time and a place for a longer breakout, but 5 minutes, if I kept you in there for 15, 20 minutes, you probably would start getting a little bit bored, and you're going to be talking about something completely unrelated. And so anyway, those are just some recommendations for breakout rooms. Yeah, Amy, great point. You can tell them to take a picture with their phone. Maybe they don't know how to do a screenshot, but they can, chances are high they have their phone up. Okay, so Rob asked a question that's been asked a couple times, so I'll go ahead and share this before we head out on break. So Rob asked what software I'm using to share my screen or my slides. Karen asked the same thing. So I'm using a software called Ecamm Live. It is only available for Mac, but there is a different software available for PC, which is OBS, which stands for Open Broadcast Software. So what I like about Ecamm, I'll admit, so I'm usually gung-ho of embracing new technology, new software. I'm like, oh yeah. And for some reason, Ecamm Live kind of intimidated me, and I was a bit nervous about it, and I kept putting it off, and and finally I was like, all right, I gotta learn this. And so I sat down. It took me 45 minutes. It was not that big a deal. It's actually quite simple. And I know I'm not even using it to its full capability. It was originally designed for people who are, doing Facebook Lives or YouTube Lives, and you can do all this fancy stuff. And, I can just show you a couple things. I can put my logo right there in the corner of my screen. I can change the camera. I can do it without the circle. I can remove this logo. So there's all these cool things you can do. I can show you my other camera. So here's my built-in camera, which I try to avoid using. And it's all just a click of a button, but you have to program it ahead of time. And that was the part that at first I got a little intimidated by. It wasn't hard. So Ecamm Live, which thank you, Rob, he put the link in the chat, or OBS if you're a PC user. So, all right, let's take a little break. It's the top of the hour, it's 59 after. Let's come back in about 7 minutes, 6 after. How's that sound? Feel free you're welcome to stay here and chat. You can turn off your video, mute yourself, and go do your thing, whatever you want to do. But we'll start back in about 7 minutes.
Awesome. Hey, Amy.
Yeah.
What is your second camera that you use? Is it an external webcam, or are you using a DSLR?
It is an external camera. It's a Canon. Hold on, It's like a video camera, you know, like the kind,
Oh, I have one of those.
Yeah, and that I had it. I didn't even think about it in this context. And then I got this thing. I can't show it to you because I'm using it, but it's just this little tiny. It looks like a USB stick, and it's called a
Camlink.
Camlink. Yep. So I'm using the Camlink. Works great. I got it on a tripod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is the camera I would go buy if I was buying one brand new, but if you already have the camera, just buy the Camlink thing. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I already have the camera, and I had another. They call it capture box, but it requires a lot of steps. And when I changed and I upgraded my Mac a couple years ago, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just get, because they've gone down. They used to be a lot more expensive. I think I'm going to just get the Camlink because it's just a click thing. You don't have to program it. So
yeah. I think with Ecamm Live, you can plug any Canon camera in and use it without having the Camlink or anything. But I don't always have Ecamm open. You know, like if I'm just like in a meeting with somebody, I'm not using Ecamm. I just turn on my video camera, you know, so it is simple. Yeah.
Cool. This is great. Everybody's loving it.
Sweet. Awesome.
Kim, Charlotte here. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe we need to wait until Amy gets back, but it sounds like you know some stuff about this. Is this Ecamm Live or OBS like StreamYard? It's not like a
So
streaming.
it's a little different. I mean,
Okay.
you can stream with Ecamm, and so what OBS allows you to do, and I've avoided OBS because it requires more programming, for a lack of a better word. It's a software that will let you stream, but it also gives you the ability to do some of the stuff that Amy's doing.
Okay.
Whereas Ecamm is that as well. Like I use BeLive. I've been streaming a live sports show for about 5 years, but it doesn't have all the tools like Ecamm. So Ecamm will be gone.
Okay, but
if you have a Mac, it's a whole lot easier than OBS.
Yeah, and I'm not on a Mac, so I'm laptop. So okay, but Ecamm doesn't run on there. Okay.
Right. But you know what? They do have YouTube videos on OBS, so it is probably a lot easier now. When I tried it myself before, and I probably did something wrong and just said, forget it. But that was about a year ago. So
okay. Yeah. So I'll circle back. So it's not streaming software. It is to again create this because she's
both.
seamlessly.
You can stream through OBS.
Okay, you can
and
stream.
It's free.
Okay, I just saw that, but it allows you, like she's seamlessly moving in between things instead of the, like inside Zoom where you go, okay, I'm about to share my slides, click, double click, and then it's up there. This is just in and out. So it requires a couple of cameras and some stuff, so.
Right. So you could use OBS without the extra camera, but what it does is it allows you to use an extra camera.
Okay.
Without having a mixer.
Okay, because we were one program, the gentleman had a mixer, and it's like, okay, that's a whole set of extra producing stuff. So, okay.
And Karen McCullough bought one of the mini, and I think she may have gotten rid of her. She was like, it's too much. I don't like it.
Yeah, that looked like it was a lot. I mean, he was skillful with it, but yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love your glasses and your fire hair and your earrings and everything.
Thank you. Somebody earlier asked me about lights because I always use a ring light, which when I wear glasses, sometimes give me a green circle. So I started using a little lamp that I already had. That's an LED lamp, and that's all I'm using. And it gives me the same light. I can, because it gives me ranges. Yeah. But I'm like, well, who knew?
Right, and I'm like moving all around, so it's like crazy light from this way. I'm just trying to be comfortable today, so it's the journey. And let me get rid of this this background. Learning things today, so good deal. I'll let you keep taking a break. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kim.
Yes.
I never got back to you, but I wanted to let you know on ring lights, I got one called Mount Dog. I had corresponded with you in LinkedIn. I was telling you it had a remote. I love it because you can mount your phone and the remote turns on starts your video and stops it. So for those of us that aren't as proficient, it's a
Right.
really nice way to help you get going. And it's a really good light. It's called Mount Dog. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Is it M-O-U-N-T?
Yeah, M-O-U-N-T, dog. It's like a little over 100. I got it on Amazon.
Yeah, now I've had mine for a few years, but now they've come down and they have the remote. Like when I got mine, it didn't have the remote, but it's a great light. And like I was just saying to Charlotte, now I have this other light that is just a lamp. And I started using it at my other desk and I'm like, wow, this is easy. And it gives me the same light without giving me the rings in my glasses.
Yeah, it looks really good. Yeah.
So I bought it at Costco a few years ago just to have as a lamp. I never thought about using it for, light for the camera. It's just a little desk lamp. So
Cool.
So you're saying that you get something called the Mount, what did you call it? The Mount Dog?
It's called the Mount Dog, and it's on Amazon, and it's great. It's a ring light. In fact, I could probably show you. You see that?
Okay, yeah, I have one of those.
And it's got a little mount in the middle, which is why I love it, for that you put your phones, and if you want to videotape a video, you just use your remote to turn it on and off, and it makes it really easy.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for something that kind of helps take the glare off my glasses. Because I've gotten to where when I get on, I need to have them on. And Kim, you look, every time I see you, I don't see that glare in the eyes.
Well, like I mentioned, I have this little desk lamp. It's an LED lamp. I'll try to, I'll take a picture and text it to you.
Okay.
I actually just bought it at Costco a few years ago. It was on my on another desk, and I started using it, and I'm like, this is so easy. It's an LED light, and there's different, levels of it.
Okay.
And it's really mobile. So if you needed to move around, it's a little light lamp.
Okay.
So.
All right, y'all ready to start back up again?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, come on back. If you want, turn your video back on so we can see your beautiful face and that we know you're here. All right. So I want to get into some more depth about how to create amazing virtual experiences. And what I've realized in this work that I've been doing is there are 3 elements that are critical to basically to know, to understand, and to be competent in. And those areas are these. You got to know the technology. You got to design the program well, and of course you got to deliver it, right? So as speakers, we know about delivery pretty well. But anyway, we're going to talk about these 3. We're going to go into a little bit of depth for each of them. We're only going to scratch the surface, but at the end, I'll share with you one of the resources. One of the resources I'm going to share with you is a course that I have, which actually Karen has been a student in, and we get into more depth into each of these 3 areas. So I think what's interesting about these 3 areas is not just them alone, but then to look at the intersections. And so if you look at the intersection between technology and design, I think of that as a place of inspiration. So when I know the technology well, and I understand what all the options are, when I know about different, little programs that I might bring in, that inspires me in how I design my program. And you all talked about that. I mean, even just a minute ago, Charlotte was saying like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about going off and like grabbing an object and coming back. So there's a piece of inspiration, which you could say is about technology, the technology of our space, right? But that's where I find a lot of inspiration. And then the intersection between design and delivery, I think of that as innovation, where when I'm, it's kind of as I'm moving back and forth, sometimes I find that more in the design element, sometimes in delivery, but that intersection is a place of innovation. And then finally, when I'm actually delivering, using the technology, what I'm going for, what I'm hoping for is transformation, and that I might have such a big impact that I can help, really influence or transform the groups or the people that I'm working with. And so the tool can be like, just our ability to present virtually can be incredibly powerful. I often think I'm so glad if we had to have a pandemic that happened in 2020 and not in 2010, because we would be in a lot more trouble than we already are. And I almost think of this as a progression. As you start with technology, you get inspired, you design differently, you innovate, deliver, transform. And so it's a bit of like a cycle there, if you will. So we're going to spend time in these areas, and we're going to start off with technology. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here because we all know how to use Zoom. So much of this stuff, you know, in whatever platform you're in, go to the website, watch the videos that company has put together, whether it's Microsoft, Zoom, Adobe, it doesn't matter. But it's all there, right? I think in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half now, since they've added some new features, you could be an expert in Zoom. So, but we're not going to get too much in the technology, but I want to talk a little bit about it. And the first is your technology attitude. And this is what I have noticed, is that there are some people that are just like, yep, bring it on. I'm here. I'm going to learn this stuff. What do I need to know? Which I love. And then there's others that have been really, really resistant. Like, and I've noticed that this is not necessarily generational, because I have seen this in, 65-year-olds all the way down to 18-year-olds. But there's this resistance to learning new technology. I don't know where that comes from, perhaps a place of fear or just, uneasiness. But the first thing I would just say is just embrace it. You are going to have more fun, and you're going to have a greater impact if you just embrace the technology. You're like, all right, I'm going to learn this. This is all cool. Right? I felt that a little bit in myself. I mentioned earlier when I was trying to learn eCam, and I just kept putting it off. I thought it'd be so hard. And, just about the zillionth time I've learned the lesson of, sometimes we think things are much harder than they are. When I actually went and learned it, it was pretty simple. So check that. Think about your attitude and what you're saying about your own tech skills. If you're one of those people that's like, oh no, I'm terrible at technology, just stop saying that. Okay, just stop. And just instead, you're like, I haven't learned that yet. I need to spend some time learning it. That's it. So super simple. I also think that technology is, the goal anyway, is to get to where it feels really comfortable and seamless. So what I mean is, I don't know that everybody here knows how to ride a bike, but if you know how to ride a bike, there was a point when you were learning how to ride a bike that you couldn't think about anything else. All you could think about was in that moment, like, okay, balance, what am I doing? My legs, my arms, you're just like focused, right? Maybe you had a parent or an adult yelling at you what to do, and you're just focused, right? Eventually you get good enough riding that bike where you can carry on a whole long in-depth conversation with the person next to you, and you're not even thinking about the bike. That's what we're going for. So that the technology is so comfortable that it's fading away from your, whatever, the front of your brain. It becomes basically tacit knowledge. So that's what you're going for with the technology. You don't have to be like a tech pro to get there. But by the time you get to 100 trainings or webinars, you'll be there for sure. So one of the biggest things is just practice, right? So as I was listening to Marquesa's presentation that she did last month, I was listening to it because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't repeating the same things or teaching you all the same things. And Christina had this comment towards the end. And she says, I'm looking to do longer training sessions that are 3 hours in succession. I want to increase engagement. How do I replicate what I do in person virtually? I think the more familiar I become with the technology, the easier that will be. Yes. So well said. I don't know if Christina's here. I'm not sure if you walked away. Yeah, and I think that's the whole point, is like you become familiar with the technology and it just becomes easier to move around and do the things that you need to do. So thank you for your comment, Christina. And I have been using this hashtag lately, virtual can be awesome, because I have just seen so many situations where it really is amazing what you can do in the virtual space. So I just want to encourage you to keep going with that. And I want to share with you probably what I have noticed. So there were some earlier trainings that I did where I would send out a survey and I would invite people to tell me, what are you most worried about when it comes to the technology? And the biggest thing people would say is something will go wrong. Like, I'm afraid that there's going to be a tech issue. I'm not going to know how to handle it, whatever. Well, I assure you it will happen. Like, something will go wrong. And so the question is, like, the solution is you just got to be prepared. So I had a situation that I'll share with you. It was actually in June. I was presenting for my Carolinas chapter, so NSA Carolinas, and I was the VP of programs. So my job was to host the session, but I was also presenting a version of this workshop for an hour and a half. Well, we were supposed to start at, I think it was at 9:30 or 9. No, it was at 8:30, kind of like you all did today. Well, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I realized I didn't have any internet. And I texted my neighbors, like just a couple doors down. None of us had internet. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can use my hotspot. I couldn't even load like a basic website on my phone. Like, something was going wrong. So I am freaking out because I'm supposed to host a 5-hour thing in 30 minutes. And so I texted our president, got him set up as the host. He can start the session. And I'm still like, what the heck am I going to do? I'm supposed to go on in about an hour. And so I ended up finding a friend who lives about half a mile away, who had a different internet provider than we did. And I said, can I just come and sit in your driveway and host a session from there? She was like, yeah, no problem. So this was in June, so middle of the pandemic still. So I drive over there, and I'm sitting in the backseat of my car, like hosting this session, and it was fine, right? Like, everybody, I mean, it's NSA, like, thank goodness it wasn't like a paying client. But NSA, everyone's super, forgiving. The president had started the sessions. I got there a little late. It was fine. And then I thought, well, probably the internet will be back on fairly quickly because this has happened before, and usually they're pretty quick to fix it. But so I decided to switch with I had a colleague that was supposed to present in the afternoon. So we switched. He went for the morning. I went in the afternoon. And I thought, oh yeah, by lunch we'll be fine, right? So we're good. I'm just there hosting, as a host, you don't have to do a whole lot. Well, so at lunchtime I thought, so I called home, still no internet. I'm like, okay, great. I'm presenting about facilitating a virtual session. I need to have my stuff, right? I can't just be sitting in the back seat of my car with my little laptop. So I decide I'm going to run home. I'm going to get my camera, my mic, my external monitor. I'm going to bring it over to my friend's house and set it up on her front porch. And she, meanwhile, was going to pull out a table for me. It was going to all be fine. So I go to start my car to go home, and my car battery is dead because I had my computer plugged into my car battery. It's like, of course it is. So my friend comes out. I'm like, hey, can you give me a quick jump? We set it all up. Her battery in her car is so corroded, we can't get a connection to jump my car. Okay, it is now 12:15 and I'm supposed to be back in 45 minutes. And she's like, Amy, take my car keys, just go take my car, drive home and get your stuff. So I do, I come back, get everything I need, set it all up. We're fine. I'm ready to go by 1. I start doing the program, all is going well. And then because we live in Western North Carolina, a thunderstorm rolls in the afternoon. And I'm presenting and people can hear the thunder because I'm outside. And then at some point I lost power for 3 minutes. And I was just like, of course I did. And I mean, at this point I am especially I started the session, I'm drenched with sweat because it is hot out, but I'm just so stressed, right? The thing is, I think for the participants, it actually wasn't that big of a deal. And talking to people later, they're like, yeah, actually it seemed fine from our end. People knew what was going on to some degree. It wasn't worth hiding it or anything. But it was a great learning to me. I mean, I had, our president was helping with some of the behind the scenes. So when I lost power for 3 minutes, they were able to all stay on the session and he facilitated conversation about whatever I had just been talking about. It was perfect. He jumped in. So the point is, if I can handle that, something's going to go wrong and it's going to be okay in the end. The key is just be prepared. I know how to set all my stuff up so I could just grab it and throw it in the car and reset it up within about, including the travel, it was about 30 minutes. So that's what I'm talking about as far as technology goes. just know what your alternative plan is and know how to punt in the moment. Because I think that like that's what we do as NSA professionals. That's what we do as professional speakers is we adjust and we respond and so forth. All right. I want to talk in a moment actually about a couple tech mistakes that I've noticed. But before I do that, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on technology. So I just want to open it up really quick. Are there any specific questions that you want to know about technology that you want me to chat about?
This is Elena. I have a question. I was going to ask about the Canon video camera that you have. Can you, I guess maybe on break, chat the model number? I know that's like a very specific question, but I know you couldn't get to it right now because we're in the middle of something.
Yeah, yeah, it's and I'll fill you in if you weren't there in the break. We were talking about this, but it's one of those that you just like, one of those like typical video cameras.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a Canon Vixia. Yeah, here, I'll just put it in there right now while we're thinking about it because I'll forget.
Yeah. Lane, I don't know if you remember, it's the one I have. When you came to my show before at the restaurant, it's just a little camcorder.
Right, I just didn't know the model number because they have different
Oh,
models. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And because I know some of them are compatible with the A10 Mini and some aren't. And so when the door opened, what tech questions do you have? I'm like, well, that's been my lingering one because I
There
want
you
to
go.
get it.
Yeah, I just put it in there.
Okay.
And I don't know, like, I mean, I had this already. And I had bought this camera particularly because it was fairly inexpensive for a completely different purpose.
Yeah.
If I was going to go buy a brand new camera right now, I don't know if this would be the one. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. I haven't done the research. I'm probably not the person to ask about like, oh, what's the best camera or what's the best mic? Like, I know what I have and it works. And, I'm happy to share what I have, but just something to think about if you're buying something brand new.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Michael.
When you're practicing with a new technology and you have a live client, I mean, at some point you have to move from practicing by yourself to moving with the client. Do you have any tips or suggestions about how to get comfortable, or do you just like call your friends and say, let's set this up? And I think that's for me, the big transition is knowing at some point I'm going to do this with a paying client, and I want to be prepared at that point.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I'm probably one to be more inclined to take a risk in that regard than maybe some others. So yeah, I do think it's worth practicing with, and it could just be, a group of you, like 3, 4 of you, 5 of you get on a call. I'm like, all right, we're going to go for an hour. Everybody gets 10 minutes to like present or practice whatever they want to practice. So you could do something like that, or, just with your family or friends or whatever. And I don't know, my inclination is that once I'm like, yeah, it's good enough, then I just do it with a client. I'm not one to aim for perfection before I use it with a client, but I also often will have a backup plan. So like, for instance, I'm using Ecamm Live, but the first time I used it, like if I couldn't use it and I just had to do it the way I did before, it's not that big a deal. Like I knew how to do that. Same thing with Mural. Mural is a software that I use that's it's a bit complicated. I mean, it's not, but it is in a way. And the first time I used it with a client, I'll admit I was a bit nervous, but I also had a backup plan. I'm like, well, if this doesn't work here's some other ways we could get to the same result. I wouldn't say my backup plan is like fully developed as much as the front plan, but it's there. And, it might be like, all right, everyone, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then come back. And in those 10 minutes, I'm frantically setting up the next thing. So yeah, I guess I tend to be pretty comfortable with taking the risks if needed. Rob?
Just another question about the camera you have. How are you getting the image into your computer from that camera?
Like my face?
No, the camera. Are you using a USB cable from that camera?
Yes. So there's a USB cable, or no, HDMI.
Yeah.
HDMI, and from there it goes into this little thing called a cam link.
Okay, that's what I'm missing to be able to use it with my laptop.
Yeah.
Because it only goes into the ATM. So it's called a cam link.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have an ATM and you're using that, you don't need the cam link.
Okay, I'm just having some trouble with video and audio syncing with the ATM.
Yeah. By the way, on the ATEM, make sure, as far as the video audio sync, you have upgraded the software.
Yep.
Because I believe they've addressed some of that.
Okay, thank you.
So that might be it. All right, let's keep going. I want to share with you a couple mistakes that I ran into recently that I want you to be able to avoid, some tech mistakes. So the first is you absolutely need to understand the difference between a host and a co-host in Zoom. So right now, Kim is the host, I'm the co-host. So there's a few things that the host can do that the co-host can't. Normally, this is no big deal because I'll be like, oh, Kim, set up the breakout rooms. That's one of the things that I can't do as a co-host. However, I was keynoting at a university a couple weeks ago, and it was sort of this last minute request. They reached out to me on Wednesday, said, hey, can you do this keynote on Monday? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. This is a friend of mine I know fairly well. And he told me in advance, he said, I'm not able to physically be there in person. I can't sit and watch your keynote. Oh, I'm sad, I'm gonna miss it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, fine, no big deal. So he gets this all set up, and he was the host. And I said, oh, beforehand, can you make me the host or co-host? He's like, yeah, of course. So he makes me the co-host. And I was thinking mistakenly that he was going to make one of his colleagues who was there the host. He didn't. He walked away. He was gone from his computer for the entire session. I had this whole interactive program plan that involved breakout sessions and whatnot. And I'm like, all right, whoever is the host, can you set up the breakouts for blah, blah, blah? And they're scrambling, they're looking at, they're like, what? We can't do that. And he was gone. He was half a mile away, literally. So we couldn't do breakouts and I had to punt. Okay, well, here's what we're gonna do. I don't remember what I did, something around the chat and everyone's gonna post in the chat with one other person privately. It definitely was not as nice. So make sure, not only do you know the difference, but the person who is the host never, ever, ever leaves the vicinity. A friend of mine had a similar problem where they were hosting it was a public program, the kind of thing anybody could join, and the host walked away and they had a Zoom bomber. And it was horrible because they couldn't kick this person out. And I think Zoom has changed some, and now I think the co-host can kick the person out. But anyway, the person had left. They were gone for an hour. And so the entire session, they had this horrible Zoom bomber that was doing completely inappropriate things. I think they eventually had to cancel the session. So never, ever, ever let the host leave. And if you are the host, don't leave. Just so you have the list, here's a few things that only the host can do. Now this is just for Zoom. So whatever software you're using, it's going to be different, but similar, right? So just make sure that they don't leave because that was sad. and really in the end, I'm the one that looks foolish because I can't, I didn't get all this situated in advance. So, all right, let's talk about delivery. We're gonna just briefly talk about that, and we're gonna spend most of the rest of the time talking about design. So the biggest thing, and I think that actually in NSA, we are fairly good at understanding this, but that is just to be you. Be yourself. Sometimes when I watch other people who are, really good presenters and I'm watching them oh yeah, I should do that. And then I catch myself and I realize, no, I shouldn't, because that's not me, right? They're doing them and they're doing it really well. And it's really easy to get caught up in oh, I need to do it like the other person. And I think what makes us so good, each of us as speakers and presenters, is just be yourself. And doing that in the context of Zoom and virtual programs, I think is even more important because it's easy to, I don't know, maybe we get a little imposter syndrome and it's easy to forget that. And I also think, think about that too. There's some things that I might share today or that I've already shared. And you're yeah, I'm not going to do that because it's just not me. So I had a client of mine who's in my course, the Leading Engaging Virtual Meetings course that I mentioned. And she joined the course because so she's out in Australia, and she told me that, as all this started, she wanted to get really good at she's a professional speaker, and she wanted to get really good at this virtual thing. And so she hired somebody who's like a top professional speaker in Australia. I don't know who it was. I don't even know. And just hired him as like a one-on-one coach. Like, can you just give me I want 2 sessions with you. I want to learn how to do this really well. And so his advice was, well, one of the ways you need to increase engagement is you need to wear silly hats. She was like, what? He was like, yeah, absolutely. This is like one of the really important things. She's like, that's not me. Like, I'm not the kind of presenter that's going to come in and wear silly hats. Like, that works great for him, and it's funny, and it gets people laughing. But I was like, she's telling me this story, and I'm like, no, I can't really see you doing that. It would feel fake, So I just think like the biggest thing is just be yourself, right? And this is from a client of mine who's a coaching client, and then also in my course. I've learned how important it is to relax and be yourself. Connection with your group is so much easier that way. And absolutely, right? Like, that's how you're going to connect with a group, is just by being yourself. So whatever that looks like. The other thing about delivery, which actually I think as NSAers, we're pretty good at this already, is just practicing, right? And just whether that's practicing the technology, but also just verbally practicing out loud and practicing looking right into the camera, right? As opposed to looking, it's fine to look down at the screen some, and I want to see your faces, but mostly I'm looking at the camera because that's what's going to feel like it's at eye level, or at like I'm looking at your eyes, right? Like looking at your face. So practice. All right, so I want to share with you what I've noticed is probably one of the biggest delivery mistakes that people make, particularly when they're in a presentation mode. They're in leading a training or a speaking or that kind of thing, and that's if they sit down. If you can, stand up. There's something that just changes in our energy, in our body, that when we stand up, you can feel it, right? You can feel it like through the camera. Now, so what you're seeing on the screen, this is my setup. And the arrow is pointing to my camera, the one we were just talking about. And that mic is not the mic I use for this. That's my podcasting mic. But yeah, so I just stand, and my energy changes completely. If I'm sitting, then I'm going to have a very different energy. It's going to be harder to really bring it, if you will. Now, there may be times where it makes sense to sit, like if I'm doing something a bit more intimate, or almost more of a coaching session kind of thing, then maybe I would sit because I want different energy. But I would say 95% of the time when I'm even if I'm just on a meeting with somebody and I'm standing up. I'm just curious, who stands up when they're presenting? Whoops, hold on, I just left. Anybody? 1, 2, only a couple people, 3. Okay. Yeah, so Kim, Elena, and Radia. Am I saying your name right?
Not to worry, but it's Rita.
Oh, it's Rita.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Great. Rita, thank you. Yeah, so I think standing up really can change things. I think unless you would do a keynote sitting down, don't sit down when you're presenting on Zoom or whatever. Yeah, Karen, half and half, right? It just depends. Cool. All right. Any questions right now or comments you want to add about delivery? I kind of feel like I was fairly brief on that. Well, before we get into design, any questions or comments about delivery? Yeah, Deanna.
All right. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yay. You're standing up. So what are you using, just like a remote mouse to click through your slides? Because at least while I'm sitting, you can't necessarily see that my hands are down here clicking the mouse to advance my slides. I have tons of animation. So if you're standing, you're not as close to your computer and the controls. Is it just you're using the remote mouse?
No, I'm still pretty close. Okay, let me go back to show you. So here's my desk. And right now, as I'm standing, literally my body is touching the wood on the desk, or it can be. I'm within 2-3 inches from the wood on my desk. So if I step back, now I'm farther away, but I'm pretty close, and I've just situated my camera so that it's, 2 feet from me. So I'm just using my hands. I actually just use the forward and back buttons move the slides, but I could just as easily use a mouse. It doesn't matter.
Because you can't use a remote mouse with, at least I've had trouble using a remote mouse and still being able to move everything else around.
Yeah, I mean, so when I'm presenting, like right now, I've got, man, I don't know, probably 8 different windows open on my screen. I've got the chat, and what I actually do, so I use Keynote instead of PowerPoint, and I love Keynote in many ways, but they're not quite up to snuff with PowerPoint as far as presenting with multiple screens and with Zoom or whatever. So I actually convert all my slides to a PDF right before I present. And so I have that on my laptop screen. My PDF is down there on the screen, and then up on my external monitor, I've got like 10 things open. And so yeah, if you're using a remote, you have to make sure you're actually in that window. So like I'm all the time moving my mouse from like the PDF to Zoom, if I want to scroll through the chat or whatever. So yeah, but I just use my hands.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. Randy has a question in the chat. Okay, suggestions on virtually presenting how-to sessions where you are teaching a specific skill. Randy, I know what you mean, but I'm not sure what the question is. Like, if that makes sense.
So yesterday I was trying to teach students how to hold utensils. And so it's a very specific thing. It would be like, how would you take apart a box, or really anything that requires
like tactile skills. Yeah.
Yeah, there's watching. It's not about your face so much as they are watching you do something. And maybe it was teaching sign language.
Got it. Okay. Great question. So what I would recommend is what you're going to want to do is have a second camera. Now that camera could just be your phone, or it could be an iPad or something, and situate it so that the camera, so here's the camera on my phone, so it's facing down, pointing to like your desk or whatever. And set this up either on a tripod, or you could do something like this, where you stack some books up, and so the camera's facing down, because you're going to need it high enough, good 12, 20 inches above your desk. And then you can switch cameras, and then you can show them with your hands. You like that? I think Randy's excited. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's what I would do. I've seen people do that when they're teaching drawing, or I had a webinar that I was doing with 8 other experiential educators, and we were doing this webinar on just different ways to be experiential, which I'll share the link with you all later. But one of the women had mailed us in advance this little craft project that she wanted us to do in the moment. And we all knew ahead of time it was coming. We didn't know what it was. And so we all had to kind of move our camera so that we could, see, she wanted everybody to see us opening the envelope and stuff. And it was actually pretty cool. So, all right, good question, Randy.
Hey, I have a question, Amy.
Yeah, go, Kim.
Do you use a switcher?
I don't.
Okay.
So I have an ATEM Mini that I bought, and I don't know. To me, it just was too much. In fact, I have it brand new in a box, and I need to see if I can sell it or something. I just found, for what I'm doing, I couldn't get it to work right. And I was like, okay, I've spent 3 hours on this, forget it. And now I just use Ecamm, and it's enough. Now I haven't started using this yet, but I do have not a switcher, but just like a box with 10 different USB plugs that so far I haven't quite needed, but I have that, and may at some point start using that. Now I have considered the, what is it called? It's like the Elgato.
Yeah, it's the, it's not StreamYard, but it's something like that.
Yeah, the Stream Deck or something. And
Stream Deck.
Yeah, when that actually looks like it would be pretty nice.
Right.
But yeah, the ATEM Mini, I think it's just for a different purpose than what I'm needing.
I think there was a thought that you needed to have that to switch between your screens. And that's why I asked, because you're showing that you don't. The Stream Deck is something if it makes sense, but I think there's so much we can do without that extra piece of equipment. You're one of several people who I've heard have the same experience with the Mini and have not used it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. All right. Last chance. Well, not really last chance, but Eva.
Yeah, just a quick question. When you talked about the OBS software or the eCam Live, is that a software that you can use on any of the virtual platforms? Is that simply how you show your slides and the speaker at the same time?
Yes to the second part. It is how you show your slides and the speaker at the same time. Basically what it is that Zoom is, like you know how in Zoom you can choose which video camera you used? So one of the choices is eCam Live. So the software is thinking that eCam is my video camera.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it works like with Teams or Adobe or whatever. Theoretically it should, but you'd have to dig a little and find out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on and talk about delivery. I mean, not delivery, design, because I think this is where the real excitement comes as far as designing programs that are engaging and interactive and so forth. So the first thing that you need to think about when you're designing your program is what's the purpose? And this sounds so simple. You're like, yeah, duh, Amy, I've been doing this for a while. And what I have noticed is this often gets ignored. So what is it that you want the people who are participating, what do you want them to learn or do or know or whatever it is, but what is the purpose for your program? So sometimes you're gonna want more engagement than others. If you're trying to teach them something, like Randy is trying to teach how to use a utensil, well, have everybody have a utensil there in front of them and actually like practicing and experimenting and hold it up to the camera, right? Like if you're trying to teach them a skill like that, thinking about bringing in time and to actually practice that skill, right? Unless it's like, I'm just going to give you this information, you're going to go learn it later. We know enough now about learning and about adult learning that is not the best way to learn, but sometimes that's just what the moment calls for. So I guess the first thing is really know what the purpose is. And the next thing is, again, obvious, but just get creative, right? So my research is in creativity, and this is the work I do when I'm not teaching virtual programs. And there is research that shows that when you tell people to be creative, they will be more creative. So I am telling you to please go out and be creative as you're designing about your programs and thinking about it. So just, see what you can come up with. I mean, and try to get away from the box of the screen, like I did before, like, oh, go and find something. Who was it? I think it was Charlotte that said, we typically move around and we interact. I mean, obviously breakout sessions are great for that, but what if you had everybody, say you're doing a full day program and everybody has 30 minutes or 15 minutes where they're assigned another person, they're given their cell phone number, and they actually go for a walk with that person. And now you're getting some movement, you're getting connection with one other person. If it's raining outside, tell them, I don't care, go do some laps around your garage or something, or back and forth through the hallway, but just like move. So that's an example of just like, just do it a little different. What would you do in person? And how might you do that in a virtual setting, considering all the resources that you have available to you? So getting creative, and aligned with that is just being deliberate about how you're designing the session. So I was very deliberate at the beginning, like, we're going to do chat, and then we're going to do poll, and then we're going to do breakouts. I could have done all of that in one of those methods, but it just gets a little stale, So being deliberate in how you're designing the program. And if you combine those together, this is actually my mantra, which is be deliberate to be creative, because creativity does not happen by accident. Despite what you might have heard of, the apple falling on Newton's head. Yeah, it wasn't quite like that. It is through deliberate effort and deliberate work that we become more creative. So there's my little soapbox about being creative. So as you're designing your session, one thing to think about, and this was mentioned already by somebody, and I don't remember who, but just this idea of building connection early at the beginning. So intentionally have some time to build connection before you get into content. It's going to help people connect with you better. It's going to increase your credibility because we work with people that we know, like, and trust, right? And so if they know you and they like you and they trust you right from the beginning, they're going to be more interested in listening to you and learning from you. So building in that connection early. What I have found is that if I send people into breakout sessions within the first 10 minutes, then when I say later, what questions do you have? People will talk. If I don't send them into breakout sessions, there's a lot more silence. And so there was some questions at the beginning and people, I forgot who it was now, just like, how do you get people to talk to each other? Give them a chance to talk in a small group, in a really safe space, if you will. 2-3 people is pretty low risk. And if you have them talk about a topic that is fairly low risk, like I'm having you talk about something that went really well, that's easier to talk about. It's pretty easy to talk about, right? And I know that you all know each other, at least some of you know each other fairly well. So building that connection early, getting people talking in a small group early, all of that will increase conversation throughout your program. So I just want to throw out, I'm just going to list a bunch of quick connection ideas and some resources for you. And we're going to get into a couple of them, but not many of them. But I just want you to have them for later. All right, so the first is you can have people do quick drawings. And I'll give you a link for a webinar where I did this with some other people. But here's an example, the results of a quick drawing that I did live in a webinar, where my co-facilitator, his name was Kendra, and she was drawing me, and we weren't allowed, we had 1 minute and we weren't allowed to pick up our pencil, right? Like, so sometimes some fun things like that can be really cool, get people like thinking about each other and talking with, not talking, but engaging. We've done this, we shared the meaningful object. And you could have that question be about anything, right? You have a leadership program, go grab an object that represents your idea of an ideal leader, or your definition of a leader, whatever it is. We're gonna do an activity in a few minutes that are like this question and image shares. Like I'll ask a question, and then you have to pick an image that represents whatever that question is. And I'm gonna show you how to do that in one way. And even just asking good questions and getting curious, right? Virtual backgrounds as a challenge or activity where you could tell everybody, change your background to be something that represents blah, blah, blah. And then, you can teach them how to change the background. Now, of course, this only works if you know that people are probably, pretty technologically both savvy and they have the equipment for it. You're gonna have people do costume changes, obviously off camera, right? But go grab a hat or go grab a shirt that represents blah, blah, blah. Or, that's the cool thing about being at home or wherever they are, right? Like they can go to their closet and get something. Maybe you give them an extra 5 minutes at break and then they have to come back with something new. And then the postal service, right? Just like mailing things out to people. I worked with a client. A university that was taking, 2 different universities, that were taking an 8-week summer program for high school students and converting that to be virtual. And so I was consulting with them and helping them figure out how to do that well. And they ended up shipping each student a box, and inside the box be like, don't open this until day 1. This is day 2. There were all these like little envelopes and packages. And it just created this sense of like excitement and anticipation. And so who's done this? Who's shipped stuff out before? Just curious if anyone's done that yet. A couple people. Okay. Yeah, I haven't done the shipping part yet, but I have been the recipient of it, and it is pretty fun. These are some games that you can play. Somebody asked about games that they could play to teach content. All of these things are available online. Pictionary, categories, charades, trivia. WFH is working from home. This probably is not as funny as it was, but just having like everybody has a bingo card, and then you have all these things on there that come up when working from home, like you're not, you're muted, or please mute yourself. And then, you get your little dot on the bingo card. But I want to show you this platform. It's kind of cool. It's called flippity.net. Let me see. All right, can you see that? This is free. Every time I go there, I just think it was like some designer that was just goofing around and having fun. And it's pretty, like, I don't know, what's the word? Not low tech, but just like, it's not real pretty, I guess. But anyway, there's some really cool things you can do in here. So one of these is a quiz show, and you can put your own things in. All right, somebody give me which one of these do you want to answer? Can you see it?
In Espanol for $300.
All right, 300 in Espanol. What U.S. state name means snow-capped? Who knows? I have no idea either. All right, let's find out.
Denver.
Nevada. Nice. So we're gonna just give that to team 4. Boom, boom. Nevada. Team 4 got it. And you could go back. So you can put all your own things in here, and you can kind of set it up. Maybe people have different teams, or they throw it in the chat. You'll figure out what the rules are, how you're gonna run it. But you can set all this up just in a simple Google Doc. Let me go back here. What are some other options? This is kind of a fun, like if we were gonna do, I could put everybody's name in advance and then do spin, and then I'm like, okay, call whoever. Spencer, you're up. What do you think is the answer for blah, blah, blah? So Charlotte, this would be another way to do the batting lineup, right? Again, it requires a little bit of advance notice to know who's there, but I actually done it in the moment even. Like when people went into breakout rooms and I, had the list of participants, and then I was able to enter it really quick while they were in breakout rooms. So you can also do it in the moment. Yeah, so there's all sorts of fun things in here. There's a scavenger hunt, flashcards, excuse me. And they've added more actually in the last few months. So I would say go in here, play with this. There's some Mad Libs, which that could be really fun. Yeah. So those are some cool ideas. You can play some games there. It's free, flippity.net. So I'll send that to you afterwards as well. All right. So one of the questions that I get a lot is this one. I really want to learn innovative ways to make sure that everyone has a chance to share their ideas. So if I was in person and I was facilitating ideation session, which I do quite a bit, and I wanted to make sure everybody's ideas got heard, there's a number of different techniques, but probably my go-to one that I use the most is simply just Post-it notes, right? And everybody gets a stack of Post-it notes, write down your idea, they all go in the middle of the table or on the wall. It's very democratic, right? Everyone has a voice. The problem is, how do you do that in person, or virtually rather? So there's a couple tools, and we're going to use one of these today. The first tool is Mural, which we're not going to use. I love Mural. It's super robust. I've mentioned it a couple times already. The downside of Mural is this is only worthwhile if you have a fair bit of time with a group. I would never use this in a 1-hour session unless the group already knew Mural. But it takes, I would say, 15 to 30 minutes to teach the group how to use it. And so if I know I'm going to be working with a group, maybe for like a couple half-day sessions at least, then I would use Mural. And Mural is basically like, if you were to imagine like in an in-person training room, you have like a huge white wall or whiteboard on the wall, say a 20-foot wall, and you can write on it, people can come up and add things. That's what Mural is virtually. So you get this massive whiteboard, people can put Post-it notes in there, you can sort them, you can move them, you can vote on them. There's just so much you can do with it, but it can be a bit much. So the alternative and a shorter version of it is a tool called Jamboard. It's made by it's made by Google, sorry. And we're going to actually use Jamboard right now. So I'm going to put a link in the chat in a moment, and let me just show it to you first so you know what's coming up. All right. Can you see this? Okay, so what you're seeing right now is a Jamboard, and these are Post-it notes that you can move around. So we're going to do an activity together, and this is called a word circle. And all of these words in here, if you combine them, like car wash, you get a compound word. So the idea here is to rearrange these words so you put them in a line so that they make sense. So car wash, wash something, 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 and so that, you know, they go and they form one line. So we're all going to go in here together, and you all are going to complete this activity. Now, a tip is this works well if you actually unmute yourself and talk to each other and have a conversation about this at the same time. Does that make sense? All right, cool. I'm throwing the link in the chat box. And in a moment, we'll see people coming in. I'm going to turn my screen off because sometimes it gets confusing. You don't know what to click on. All right, I see 4 or 5 people already in there.
It has to be all one link,
It's like a line, yeah. And just click and move it around to, and then I'll give you some more directions and some other things you can do with Jamboard after that.
I don't want to save that though.
Okay, mine are.
Mine's not moving either.
Okay, hold on. This might be error on my end. Oh,
Yeah,
hold on. All right, try it now.
Oh.
Nope.
Okay, refresh your screen. Do you know how to do that?
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, that works.
It's working.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay, let's do it. Dream team.
No, daybreak.
Spring
Where's
break.
daybreak?
Fast
Fast
pace.
pace.
Fast pace. Wait, who moved it? Okay.
Yeah, I know people are moving them.
Oh, what about daydream? Whoop, whoop.
A dream team.
Oh yeah, because we need them to go stay together, right?
Daydream team. Day, then
Daydream.
and then team.
Hold on, I got team.
Spring break.
Hold on, I'll move break out the way. Up.
But team, team,
No, it's not.
break.
It's not team break.
Team
Dream,
spring.
team, and then
Car
team.
wash day.
Team pace.
Dream team. Spring
Team.
break.
Team.
Fast pace. Car
Oh,
wash.
here,
Fast
fast pace
pace.
goes in front of car.
Yeah.
Fast
Fast pace.
Pace,
pace.
and
Fast pace, pace car, right.
pace car like in a race.
Mhm.
Fast pace, car wash,
Hold on.
wash day.
Daydream.
I'm laughing at how
Daydream,
intense some of us
daydream,
are.
Fast
daydream.
pace, car wash, daydream,
Team
team spring. Team spring?
Team
Yeah. Oh, but
Team.
daystream.
Dream team. Spring break.
Day spring.
Then spring.
No, but it's not a spring dream. Okay, let's
With
do
a
break.
spring break. And it's a
Okay.
dream team.
Hey, I like that,
But then
y'all.
you can't break team. Break dream.
No, that's not
Spring
right.
Doesn't it
Spring
all
break,
go
dream
together?
team.
Oh, breakfast. How
Spring
can we
break.
do this?
Huh?
Oh,
What?
breakfast. Yeah,
Breakfast.
Fast, break fast. Mm-hmm.
Breakfast.
There you go.
Pace
Hold
car.
on, car,
The pace car.
wash. Hold on, I'm trying to, let's see, J
You'll
spring.
leave it the way it was and just put the break fast in front of the
Breakfast.
pace
Yeah.
car.
Breakfast car wash.
Breakfast car wash?
Yeah, breakfast,
And then
fast
fast
pace,
car.
pace car.
Yeah.
Break fast. Car wash, wash day.
Hold on,
Day spring, spring ten, daydream. Car.
So breakfast,
Put fast. There you go. Wait.
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
And now
Fast
we need the car.
car.
Wash.
Car wash.
Day.
that pace car though.
Wash day.
Fast pace, that goes in the middle there.
Breakfast, pace
Fast
car.
pace. Pace car. Car wash.
Car wash.
Breakfast, pace car. Wash
Wash.
day.
Daydream.
Break.
Daydream.
What comes after wash?
Wash day,
Team spring.
Yeah, wash day. Dream, spring team.
Yeah.
Wash day. Daydream. Yeah. So daydream. Dream team. Wait.
Team spring.
Daydream team, spring.
Oh, put
Spring
spring
break.
in the front of break. Put spring
Spring
in the
break.
front of break.
There it is.
There
Spring
we go.
breakfast.
Yep.
I think we got it.
Hold on, we're moving.
Yep, that's it.
Yay.
Do we all take
Team.
a, okay.
How'd we
Spring
do?
break, fast pace,
Pace,
car
car
wash
wash, car wash
day,
day, and then
dream
dream team.
Okay, let's celebrate, everybody.
Yay!
Nice job, everyone.
Is that right?
That's
So
right. You
proud of
nailed it.
ourselves. Woo, woo.
Woo.
So
Awesome.
NSA
That's
Houston.
All right. So this is just an example of like pretty interactive activity that I set up in advance. Not, this is a great way you could use Jamboards. I'm going to show you a couple other ways to use it and how it works. Yeah, yay us, right? Michael, do you have your hand raised?
No.
Okay, cool. Just checking to see if you were thousands sure. All right, so let me show you a couple other things with Jamboard, and then we'll do one more quick thing. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's a number of tools here. So one is just a sticky note, and you can make it a different color, and you can throw an idea in there, and you hit save, and then boom, your idea is up there. And I want to have like a second idea 2, and then I can, obviously you already saw, you can move them around, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing you can do is you can add an image. So you can just do it from a Google image search. So let's say I wanted to find an image of a giraffe. Yep, I like this one, select, I can plop it in there. It takes a moment. I can resize the image or rotate it, move it around, whatever. Couple new features that Jamboard just released is one is you can create shapes. And so I can click and hold this and I can get a number of different shapes, but say I want to circle these ideas for some reason. And I can change the order so I can send this to the back. I can also change the fill color and make it transparent. So I can add circles. And then this text feature, which probably might be surprising, this is actually a brand new thing that you could actually just add text. So what I like about Jamboard is it is really simple. Sometimes that's also the downfall of it. You can also just draw. There's a few colors, so you're only limited to about 6 colors, but still. So once you just take, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, and I want you to just play with all of these different features that I just showed you. So make a shape, add a picture, do a drawing, something, give you about half a minute to play.
Okay, so.
All right, get that last thing in that you want to, then we're going to pause.
Dog off my tiger.
All right, so go ahead and pause and come back to look at my screen. So what we're going to do, so awesome, is I'm going to, okay, y'all got to pause now. This is where you have to have some self-control.
Right.
So I'm going to click at the top. You'll notice that there are these 2 little arrows and it says like 1 out of 3. I'm going to go to the next page and I want you to answer this question by putting your responses in a sticky note. So 1 response per sticky note. When you are in person, what interactive techniques do you like to use? So go ahead and move over to page 2 and answer this question with a sticky note.
Where were the sticky notes? Right there.
Did you find it?
Yep, got it. Just have to play.
So one of the downsides of Mural is that all new sticky notes get put up in this top left corner. I have no idea why. I feel like that's probably a little bug on their part, but so you have to like move them around. All right, about 15 more seconds to add your last thought.
Oh, sticky note.
All right. Go ahead and get that last one in, just pause. And I'm going to come back to some of these actually, because some of these I want to address and how you might do this, some of these in a virtual setting. Some of these are obvious, but maybe like the Jeopardy game, you now all know about Flippity, so we're good there. All right, the next thing I want you to do is go to the third page, and on the third page is one more final question of how might you use Jamboard in your program? Now that you've seen how it works, how might you use Jamboard?
How do you get the sticky? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Oh, oh.
The more specific you can be, the better. So what are some specific ways you might use Jamboard?
So Amy, I'm having trouble finding, moving things on Jamboard. I can see the movement for everybody else, but mine is not grabbing anything.
Can you create your own sticky note?
No.
Try refreshing your screen.
And to do that, we do what?
Are you on a Mac or, well, actually, I guess it doesn't matter. At the top where the URL is, where like the web address is, there should be, what, are you on Chrome or what are you on?
Chrome.
Okay, cool. Then just, there should be like a little circular button, like it's like
yeah. I got it. Okay.
Does that help?
Yep.
Oh, sweet. Good.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. All right, so these are some great ideas here.
Love all the C people who are putting them in order.
I know, right? Like some people come to like want to organize them and group them right away. I love it. Raise your hand if you're one of those people. We love you. We like your organization. It's awesome. I love this. Yeah, it's a great tool for just some quick brainstorming, creative answers to a scenario. I like that. Yeah, like you could present a scenario and then tell people to go into Jamboard and write down their responses for it. Asking questions like, what is something you would never do? That's cool. Small group discussion and presentation to a whole group. Yeah, so you could have one Jamboard, say with 6 pages, and each breakout room gets a separate page. And then, while they're in their breakout room, they're in there doing their thing, and then they come back and they can share something. It can also be a great way if you're trying to like break down the process of something. You could have students write out the process or draw it with Post-it notes and arrows and stuff. So there's a lot of ways you can use this. And what I like about it is easy enough that even in a 1-hour session, you can, it takes about 1 minute to teach people how to use it.
Hey, Amy, how do you send the Jamboard to the breakout sessions?
Okay, so good question. If you look on my screen, on the top it says share, and it's just like sharing a Google Drive, a doc or a spreadsheet, but you click on share. And here's the mistake that I made, which is why it didn't work initially, is initially I had it set that anybody with the link was a viewer. And that's why you all couldn't move it. And then I had to change it so that everybody was an editor. And then you just copy the link. You want to share it before they go into the breakout sessions. Which, if you're using this, and I would say this for any software, that you want to give them a few minutes to practice, which is why we did this like activity at the beginning, which apparently is somebody cleared this frame. That's the other problem with everybody being the editor, is anybody can do anything they want. But that's why we had the time to just play and goof around, is I always build that in. Because if you don't, people will do it anyway, and then it's really annoying. So you want to build in some time for them to learn the software anytime you're teaching something new, which that literally took like 1 minute. But yeah, and then you'll share the link beforehand. Really, you'll make sure they're in there and before you send them off to breakout sessions. Other questions about Jamboard?
I have one. Is the way you would use it, just like you did with us, put the link in the chat room, tell everybody to click on the link, go from there?
Okay. Yeah. Christina?
Yeah, so is there any way to save, like, do you tell people to make a screenshot of it, or can you save it if you're using it to generate brainstorm ideas and you want to share it with the group later?
Yep. Yeah, so a couple things. You can download it as a PDF.
Okay.
You can save the frame as an image, like as a JPEG. You can also make a copy of it. So if you wanted to make a second Jamboard from the first one. So yeah, you can do all those things. And you could also just share it view only, like the actual Jamboard link, you know.
So what's the benefit of using Jamboard versus doing a whiteboard? Because you can take a whiteboard to your breakouts too, can't you?
Like the Zoom whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I haven't used the Zoom whiteboard very much. Do they have Post-it notes?
It doesn't have all those tools.
No
Okay.
Post-it notes, but you can draw and you can
It's
color.
limited. Yeah, it's limited.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy, will you show me again? I'm on speaker view now, so I can see you. You first share the Jamboard with everybody.
Hmm? Yeah, so the share button at the upper right, and then you're gonna just, where it says get link, you can click on that to see, do you want anyone with the link or just certain people?
Okay.
I want anyone, and I want to make sure that I have it in editor mode.
Okay.
And then you just hit copy link. And then that's the link I put in the chat box.
And we get that, and when we go to the breakout session, we'll still be able to see the Jamboard.
Right, because it's just a web page, you know. It's not connected to Zoom necessarily, which is I think part of the advantage of it. Yeah. All right, good. Should we move on? Okay, we're going to, I think it's time for a break. It's 12 after. Let's just do a quick 5-minute break, come back about 17 after. Does that work?
That works. I think Elena's going to do the social media moment. Elena?
Yeah, everybody, before we break, I need everybody to turn their cameras on, fix your wig, fix your lipstick, and we're going to grab a quick screenshot so that we could put this on our social media. And I also want to share with you, I know there's ways that we could do this with our camera, but what I'm going to do, and I'm looking over here for my camera, but I'm going to take a quick screenshot in Windows, so that way it's just already shared. So everybody ready? We're going to do a countdown. Hold on, let me get my thing ready. Ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, got you. And you guys have a great break. Look, now, of course, I was talking in the middle of it, but that's how that works. So back over to you, Kim. Oh, I'm sorry. And so my social media moment is I'm going to put this in our NSA Houston Facebook group. I want you guys to engage with this post. You can also copy this image and share it out on your social media so that your friends, colleagues, network can see it, and hashtag NSA Houston. Back over to you, Kim.
And be sure to tag Amy on it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I love that. Yeah, it's just at Amy Climer, whatever platform you're on.
Awesome. All right, we're just going to take a short break, and then we'll come back in about 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, see you in a minute.
All right, Amy, I'm going to take my dog out real quick, but I should be back in 5 minutes.
Sounds good, thanks. All right, everyone, come on back. Turn on your video camera if you can. And we are going to, well, first I just want to check in. Like, how is this for you so far? You feel like you're learning some new things? Same old, same old? Where are you at? Give me a little feedback here. Yeah? Good. Kim, can't hear you.
I said definitely learning new stuff. This is awesome.
Cool, cool. Good. All right. Well, we got a little more to go, and there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions, I believe. So bring those in as needed. All right. So the next thing is I want to share something with you all. We're still in the design phase. We're still talking about activities. And I want to share with you something that's a little bit, actually, Michael, I don't know if you're there, Michael, but this goes to your question earlier of how much do you practice something before you actually bring it live? So I'm going to share with you a product that I've developed that, oh man, I don't have it within arm's reach. I normally do. Actually, give me 2 seconds.
We'll wait.
Sorry.
That's all right. This is real time.
That's right. What's so funny is that earlier today I was like, oh, I got to make sure I have my cards ready. And I was like getting them all together, but then for whatever reason, I didn't actually bring them to the table. Anyway, so a few years ago, I made this deck of cards called Climer cards. And they're a tool for people to use in person. I mean, it's a physical deck of cards, right? And it's a tool to help people, you know, lead conversations or get people thinking in different ways. There's like a lot of different ways to use them. And I now have a virtual version, but what I'm sharing with you is still kind of at the beta phase, right? Not quite ready for public consumption, but it's far enough. So we're going to experiment today with a deck of Climer cards. So, hello? Yes? Oh, someone just, okay. All right, so here's how this will work. I'm going to show you. So what'll happen is in a minute, I'm going to give you a URL and give you a link that you can go to. And you're going to see a bunch of cards on the screen, kind of like you see up on my screen. And I want you to select a card that represents one thing that you love about being a speaker or a trainer, which however you identify. And you'll see, I think when you get them, it'll be pretty obvious. You just click on the card, you'll put your name in, and then you'll pick why you picked that card. So you're picking a card that is like a symbol or a metaphor for something you love about being a speaker or trainer. So the link is now in the chat box. So click on that link and let's hope it works. It's an experiment. If you're having any difficulties, let me know. Oh, yay, Amy Hart got hers in. All right, so it's working. And all right, Randy's in there. Oh, sweet. All right, if you haven't seen this yet, if you can click on show cards, or excuse me, show responses, and you'll be able to see everybody's responses. Does anybody have any difficulties?
Okay. No, it's great.
Awesome. So what we're going to do actually is I'm going to send you in a breakout room with just 1 or 2 other people. Oh, good. Kim's back. So just a quick, we're going to just do like a 2-minute breakout with Kim, ideally 2 people, but it probably were odd numbers. So 2 or 3 people per room. And just going to have you chat about which card you selected and why. So keep it brief. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes total in that breakout room. Kim, you can send us whenever you're ready.
Okay, going now.
Cool. All right, welcome back, everyone. All right, so what you just experienced, those are Climer cards. They are, I'm so excited about them.
Those.
Say again?
Love those, it's great.
Thank you. So this, I just want to share a little bit because I'm so excited about it, but this is I have a software company that's developed this for me, and they will be available publicly. I mean, it was supposed to be any day now. Reality is it's probably another couple weeks. I am learning that software projects are like construction projects and that they never finish on time. But so you can use it like this, where you can ask a question and then people can, respond and share ideas. You can send them into breakout rooms, or you can just have them, talk, either talk or not in a full group. So it can be a cool way to just like gauge where people are at. The other thing is, and I'm just going to show you a little behind the scenes sneak peek. You're the first group I'm showing this to. But if I exit this session, then what happens is I can go in here and I can create all these different sessions. So these are just like demo sessions that I've had. And there's a couple decks in here right now. So there's the original Climer cards, which is just the deck that I created, which is the one you saw. These are all paintings that I did. Originally created them back in 2012 and actually got them initially funded on a Kickstarter campaign, which was kind of fun. But then there's another deck in here, which is actually a deck I originally created for a client, which is like a creativity client. And these are all images that are related to people and technology. And so you have, if you are using Climer cards, the platform, you'd have access to both of those. And then there's also an option that if you have your own deck of cards, which Jill was telling me that she has a deck that she uses, you can upload your own deck and use that with the group. So anyway, I will share more about this with you all if you sign up. In fact, I'll put the link in the chat. It's just Climer Cards Virtual. If you sign up there, you'll get a notification once they're ready. I don't, like I said, I'm just like so antsy. I want it to be right now, but anyway, and I'll share that if you sign up for the resources, I'll send you that link again. So anyway, any comments or questions just about using something like Climer Cards? Jill's excited. Randy, yeah. Oh, I think you just muted yourself.
You know what, Amy, I am so excited about these. And I've used some cards in the past, but yours are so vibrant and visual. I like yours better.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, but what I've used them for, which is really kind of fun, is for people to talk about what their experiences were, how they felt before training, after training. And they pick 2 different cards. And so they do this, or talk about their teams, you know, this is my team now, this is how I want my team to be. So I just love these cards. There's so many possibilities, but I love the color in yours.
Well, thank you.
So your creativity came through. Thank you for sharing these. I can't wait.
Thanks, Jill. And I think your point is such a good one. And it's all about the question you ask. Like there's a zillion ways you could use this because there's a zillion questions you could ask. You could also use them just as a tool for ideation. So what I do in person is I just spread all the cards out. And if we're trying to work on a particular problem, I'll say, you know, use these cards as inspiration to come up with new ideas. And so you could do the same thing, you know, with the virtual version. So there are lots of ways to use it. And as the software gets released, there'll be many ideas in there. Randy, now you're up.
So many, many years ago, I was coordinating this conference and we had a speaker come in. He was this older gentleman from Hallmark Cards. And the way he presented, and this is what I think you could use with the cards, is he had a clothesline. And on the clothesline were pieces of paper that were about 8.5 by 11, and each of them were numbered and had an icon. And we as the audience were able to direct his presentation. And so every icon had a topic. And then one of the cards said the end. And so whenever someone called that number, it could have been the second topic that he covered. It could have been the 10th. He could have gotten through all of those slides. He just stopped. And I will never forget one, and it was a cow, and it was chewing its cud. And he said, at Hallmark, we were always expected to be on. I mean, we would get to work, and boy, we had to create. And you can imagine taking a cow and putting it on the milking machine and then just forgetting to take it off. And it would just suck and suck and suck. And he goes, that's what Hallmark did to us. And there is something about chewing your cud. It's so important that we take time away and make sure that we are feeding ourselves. So anyway, I just think as a speaker, you could use these cards and then let your, they would represent different topics that you could talk about in either 5 minutes or 50 minutes.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's what a great way to just get the audience involved in like co-creating the experience with you.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. Cool. All right. I think we have, okay, I think we're nearing the end here as far as some of the ideas that I had prepared. So let me just share a couple last things with you. And then we're also going to get into a design mistake that I see happen a lot. All right. So here are just a few, some of these we've talked about today, some of them we haven't, but just a few platforms you can use to help, design more interactive or experiential programs. So we talked about Jamboard. We haven't talked about Padlet. And honestly, I haven't used Padlet a ton, but a lot of my clients use it and love it. And it's a little bit similar in that you're sharing, I don't know if they're quite Post-it notes, but kind of the same idea. I think it's a little bit similar to Trello, but I believe, I was going to say it's free. And then I was like, wait a minute, maybe it's not. But anyway, it's worth checking out. I actually had somebody that presented at NSA Carolinas. He used it. He was doing a presentation about designing like really interactive, interesting slides. And then he set up a Padlet board with all of these resources that were available afterwards. And so that was just kind of a fun way. It kind of fit his branding that he used it. But you can check that out. Something as simple as Google Docs. I have often, especially before I knew about Jamboard, is I would just share a link to a Google Doc and say, okay, everybody go in and type your ideas about this particular challenge. And I've actually done that on a webinar with like 200 people, 300 people. Now, you can't get that many in the Google Doc at the same time. I think it's limited to 100 people, but some people don't even want to go in there anyway. They just want to watch and see the experience. But so that's, you can do this even if you're not in this meeting format. You can still do this in a webinar format. And even if not everybody can do it at the same time, because some people won't care, but at least you're getting a lot of people in there. I think Jamboard, I read that it's limited to 50 people, but I've had problems over about 25 or 30. So you might have to like create separate Jamboards. But anyway, Flippity we talked about and Mural we talked about. So those are just a quick summary of a few of the tools. So I want to talk about what I see as probably the most common design mistake. And I've definitely seen this from fellow NSA presenters. I was presenting, there's a conference I was presenting at last year as the keynote speaker. And beforehand, I was, about a month or so before, I was talking to the organizer and I said, what do you see, like, what's your feedback been in the past that I can make sure to avoid or to definitely do? And she said, the biggest feedback we've gotten is that our breakout sessions are too basic. And I see this all the time. It's like you think you have to start at the very beginning. So if I were to make this too basic today, I would have spent an hour teaching you how to use Zoom. And you all would have been like bored out of your gourds, just like, oh my gosh, seriously, we already know how to do that. So you wanted to start, the way I think of it is like, I'm just going to start at a higher level and everyone's going to catch up. And there may be some people even here today that like, oh yeah, I actually don't know how to use polls or breakout rooms in Zoom, but there's resources available. You don't have to know that in order to get this other stuff. But I see this all the time. And like, I think about leadership programs. This happens a lot where it's like, oh, I'm teaching this particular concept. Let me go back to the very beginning. Teaching emotional intelligence, and you spend 15 minutes out of an hour on the definition of emotional intelligence. So what I would just encourage you to do is push yourself and push the groups that you're in to get to that higher level quicker, especially if you're just doing like a 1 hour breakout. I would rather leave a couple people behind because I'm too advanced than bore half the room because I'm too basic. And that's the feedback that I've, not just from that client, but other clients as well, is like, don't get too basic. So that's one design mistake that I would recommend avoiding if you can. So, all right. We are nearing the end. And we talked a bit about technology, a bit about delivery, and a lot about design. I want you to think about one thing that you learned that you want to apply to your next virtual session. Now, I want you to type it in the chat, but don't hit enter. So just type it in there, don't hit enter, but what's one thing you've learned today that you want to apply to your next virtual session? Whether that, now if your next virtual session is like in 45 minutes, well, we'll cut you a little slack. But if it's next week, then yes, I am talking about your next session next week. So what's one thing? So type it in, but don't hit enter. All right, everyone, as soon as you're done, hit enter. Let's see what you got. Awesome. Everything's scrolling in. All right, Michelle's gonna use Jamboard. Michael talked about a variety of ways to engage the audience. It's more playful and interesting. Yes, that's awesome, Michael. Deanna says Jamboard. Yeah, I love it. To brainstorm the definition of ethics and integrity. Nice, getting really specific. Yeah, Randy, decreasing content to spend more time engaging. Thank you, thank you. I think sometimes because many of us are subject matter experts and we know a ton and we want to, just share as much as we can, but then I think by mistake, we end up degrading the quality because we think that we need to share a lot of information. And one thing that research has shown over and over is more information does not lead to change. If it was, none of us would be overweight because we all understand, the basics of health and whatnot, but it doesn't mean it changes our behavior, right? So definitely I'm guilty of that. Slides, yeah, we didn't even talk about that, Garetta, but yeah. Jamboard, Google Docs, Jamboard, do something different every 10 minutes, woohoo! Climber cards, yeah, Jill. Cool. Awesome. All right. I love it. Content 30, engagement 70. Nice, Stephanie. All right. I want to share with you all some resources if you are interested in learning more, because I feel like I've shared a lot, but at the same time, there's so much more to go. So the first is, let me just throw this link up in the chat box. Oops, I don't have the, I have a little error there. I thought I had the link. I thought I had the QR code on the screen. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to put this link in the chat so you can copy it. If you go to climerconsulting.com/virtual, it'll be a screen where you can enter your contact info, and then I will share you everything that I'm about to share now, but I'll send you all the links and everything. So the first thing is this is the free, I'm going to go start the free stuff. So the first is on my YouTube channel, which is just Amy Climer. There's a few videos that I've created in the last few months. One of them is a 9-minute video with 9 facilitators where we're each sharing 1 minute, like 9 tips in 9 minutes. And it's all things about how to be engaging in in a virtual space. And then the same group of people, and these are, I think 2 of us, 2 from Australia, the rest from the US, around the US, and we're all experiential educators, meaning we all are doing like experiential training before the pandemic. So there's the direct link to it in YouTube. And then when you're in that video, in the description of the video, there's a link to another webinar that's about an hour, hour and a half, where the 9 of us are going into more depth about some different activities. So there's a ton there. That'll keep you definitely busy for a while. I've already talked about Climber cards, but I think it will be a great tool once it's ready to just be more engaging. And it can work too in person. Like if you're doing a keynote, you could have everybody go in on their phone and then you can scroll the results up on the screen so that everybody can see them. So I'm pretty excited to see how this evolves and the ideas that people come up with and how they're using it. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is this course that I have called Leading Engaging Virtual Meetings. And when I use the word meeting, I mean in the very broadest of sense here. The course is open, however, it closes today. It's been open for a couple of weeks now, or registration's been open. But I want to tell you about it in case you're interested in learning more. Karen, who unfortunately left, has been a student in the class, and so have some other NSA members. But this is just a screenshot of what it looks like. You go in, there's about 50 different modules, about 45 different videos of me sharing different elements and different techniques and tools you can use to make your meetings, your trainings, your webinars, your keynotes, whatever, to make them better. It's specifically for speakers and trainers who facilitate in an online environment. As soon as you register, you get access to everything, and you'll have access for the next 6 months. There are 3 live mastermind sessions. The first one actually did happen on Wednesday. So the class started officially on Wednesday, but it's recorded. You can go in there and access the recording. You can also access the recording from the previous cohorts and their live sessions. So I do this cohort model. where you all, if you join, you'd be the September cohort. So you get 3 live sessions, and basically the way those work is it's fairly informal. I have a few things prepared, but mostly it's Q&A, and you can send in questions in advance in case you can't be there live. I've so far have answered every question anyone's had. So you can send questions in advance, or you can ask them live in the moment. We also experiment and play with different things live in those sessions. There's also a private community for you to ask questions and really get engaged with each other. So it's a little bit like Facebook, but it's not on Facebook. It's just private to the class. There's probably almost 200 people in there so far. So this has been going since April this year. So the fee for the class is $297 for the basic level. And I'm offering just an extra bonus for you all today, that if you register for the basic level today, I mean, the deadline is today anyway, then you get a free 1-year subscription to the basic level of Climer cards, which means you can use what you saw today. You can use that with as many clients as you want, with as big of groups as you want. And that will start, of course, once the app is fully functioning. So it'll probably be another month or so. Hopefully not another month, but I was telling people it'll be done by Labor Day, and that's long past. So, and then there's a plus level for the course where you get everything but plus the basic level. Plus, you also get a 30-minute tech session with me where we go into depth on whatever your technology needs are. So we can set up your camera, your lighting, we can look at that together live. And then you also get an hour coaching session with me where we look at whatever you want. If you want to dig deep into a keynote or a program you have, or you can just show up with a bunch of random questions, like whatever, it's just time just for you to help you design, deliver, and an amazing virtual program. Included in that is the basic level of Climer cards. That's $647, but if you do it today, then I will upgrade you to the plus level of Climer cards, which means you can use the basic deck of Climer cards, plus the People in Tech deck, plus I'm releasing a couple more decks. So you get all the decks, basically, with that plus level, which if you were to buy that independently, would be about $100 a year for that. And then finally, there's a premium level of the course where you get everything I already mentioned, plus 2 extra private coaching sessions. So you basically get 4 total, which I think if you bought all this separately is about $2,200. So that's $1,347, and you also get upgraded to the top level of the Climer Cards tool, which is where you can upgrade or upload your own deck of cards, which is pretty cool. Or you can just make up a new deck, use some copyright-free images to create your own deck if you want. This is a comment from another facilitator, another speaker who's up in Canada. She says, Dr. Amy Climer's Leading Engaging Virtual Program was excellent. Amy created and curated great strategies, frameworks, and tools I could use right away. I highly recommend this program. And then another consultant, Misty, says, Amy's courses are worth every penny, which to me is just a huge compliment because I just want to give you as much value as I can. So there's the link again. If you're interested, this is the link to get all the resources I just talked about. So if you sign up here, I will send you more details about the course. If you want to do the course, I would recommend just signing up as soon as we're done here so that you don't forget, because I will be closing the cart later on. Randy asked what time the mastermind sessions are. I think the next 2 are about 4 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. Central, right? Yeah. And like I said, they're recorded if you can't make it live. I would say about half the students show up live, so about half of them are watching the recording. There's at least one student who's in Australia, so she's not showing up live. Yeah. All right. Last few minutes here. We got a couple minutes for questions. What questions do you have, either about the course or about anything that we have talked about today? What questions are on your mind?
Hey, Amy, I saw quite a few questions in chat about slides, like, are your slides widescreen? I know you said you PDF them to show them, but it looks like there's black on the edges. Some people ask about what templates do you use? What do you recommend because your slides are so colorful?
Oh, well, thank you. So Yeah, so I'm using Keynote, but everything that I'm doing in Keynote, you can do in PowerPoint. You could do in Google Slides. Like, I am not doing anything fancy. So very simple. Yes, I am doing wide format. Let me go back. Wait, hold on. Let me go back to a couple slides. Whoops. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that either. What the heck? I just want to point out a couple. Well, I'll just use this slide. I mean, this slide right here, the only thing going on is there's a header and there's an image, and then I put that link down there. So that's it. Like, most of my slides, that's what's going on. It's nothing fancy. Like, that's how they all are. There's not anything, I'm not putting a bunch of text in there. In fact, I think that the only time you should put a bunch of text in slides is if you're giving directions, because people will need to read that. You know, it's hard for them to keep all that in their head. But I think of my slides as the purpose are for them to supplement what I'm presenting. They're not the presentation themselves. So the slides are actually pretty useless without me presenting, because it's just like a header, like mistakes. Let me talk about this today. You know, like, seeing that later is irrelevant, right? I get into a fair bit of depth with slides in the course. There's a whole module about designing slides and some different things to think about. So we get into that in the course if you're interested in that. Christina.
So I have two questions, Amy. One is, when you accept a speaking or training, what are your tech requirements for the people you're presenting for? Do you have them host the call? Do you always host the call on Zoom? Do you require that you have a host? Can you speak to that?
Sure. Okay, so I'm not too picky. I'm pretty flexible. I don't need to host it. I mean, if they don't care, then yeah, I like to host it. But often that doesn't work. You know, if it's part of like a bigger conference or something, you know, I don't want to show up and be a diva or something. That's going to just cause all sorts of problems, right? I'm happy to do it. I mean, some clients are like, can you send out the Zoom link? We don't know how to do that. Happy to do it. If I'm hosting it on my Zoom link, I mean, it's kind of my preference, just because I don't have to like, oh, send them a, hey, put this in the poll. You know, I can do all that myself. I kind of like doing that. But if I feel like somebody in that group might be skilled enough to be a co-host with me, then I often will, you know, talk with them in advance about that. Like, for instance, I did this a couple of programs recently for University of Wisconsin, and it was like a 250 person hour-and-a-half training, you know, kind of webinar-ish. And I was hosting it, but I asked if one of them would be the co-host and just help with like managing the questions and the chat. And so we got on a call in advance and just walked through what I wanted them to do. And it was great. They were awesome. I feel like I'm missing part of the question. Was there anything more?
No, just a lot of the trainings that I do, I'm coming into firms, or I just did a webinar in Australia, and I offered to host it on my Zoom account so that, you know, and just have somebody to manage the Q&A and chat. And I didn't know if you set somebody up to do that on your own, or whether you ask somebody from the organization to kind of step into those shoes. So that's just one thing less on your plate. The second question I had is, do you have any tips about pacing content? So my presentations, there's a lot of content, and I really have to rein myself in, not to give too much, but really break it down, and just, you know, in terms of timing and pacing, you got any tips?
I think, I mean, a couple of things we've talked about. One is just take a break every hour. Even if you don't feel like they need it, just take it anyway. I don't even ask. Like, I'm like, we're taking a break, you know? Trying to mix things up every 10 minutes or so, or even less. I had a professor when I was getting my master's degree, it was about 20 years ago. I have a master's degree in outdoor education, which is like experiential education. And I had this professor say at the beginning of one of our classes, he said, if anyone can go find a research study that shows that lecturing is a highly effective way to teach, you'll get an automatic A and you never have to come to class again. Because he knew it didn't exist, right? So I try to just keep that in mind. And I've also heard that adults can retain about 10 minutes of information at a time. So if I'm lecturing for an hour, they're going to retain 10 minutes of what I said, but that might not be the 10 minutes that I really wanted them to retain. So I try to just break it up, as much as I can. I find both as a learner, definitely as a learner, I like this, is when I see the roadmap at the beginning and then I know where we are. Like, here's the map today was like the Venn diagram. Like, here's the 3 pieces. And then now we're here in the technology, design, delivery. So it helps like the big picture first and then narrowing in and kind of going back to that big picture as needed. But yeah, I think just being really organized for yourself and helping them see your thought process can be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Amy,
Hey, Deanna, let me just stop you for a second. We are like right on the up at the hour. And so for the sake of time, we've kind of gone over a little bit, but I would encourage you guys to make sure you get the resources from the link. There's some from Amy. And if you want to connect further, but I don't want to keep her longer so that next time we call her, she'll come back. I think, Amy, you can tell how much this session was helpful today just by the number of questions and the level of engagement. So we appreciate you. She was a little under the weather yesterday. I'm glad that you were feeling well enough to still come and present today. So we appreciate you for that. And I want to share something with you.
Thank you so much, y'all. I'm just really enjoyed being here today, and I'm excited to stay connected with you, and hopefully I'll see some of you in the class.
So Amy, I want to share this as a little something. We know that you could have been doing anything else today on this Saturday. So if you were in person, we would give you these handwritten notes, but virtually everybody wrote like something that they took away from this. So when you're going back and you're like, why do I bother doing these chapter events? You can say, oh yeah, this is what the NSA Houston group said. So we will send this to you as a document, but it's just, this is some of what people said today. You really made an impression and we appreciate you. So thank you for spending your time with us today and for all the information and the resources. And is there, before I let you say a final remark, our next month's presentation in October is going to be led by Jill Hickman. And we're going to learn about creating online courses, because especially in this virtual space, that may be something that, all of us want to consider. For those of us who don't do a lot of training, we're going to learn about how you go about creating an online course. So mark your calendars for that. Please be active in NSA and post on social media about what a great time you had today, if in fact you did. So I'll let you say a final remark before we get out of here, Amy.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. And y'all, just want to say thank you. Thanks for being here today. I think one of the things I'm most excited about when I see people show up to this particular topic is it means you are going to make your sessions more engaging, and we're not going to have those painful or tolerable sessions anymore. And I just feel like you're kind of doing a favor to humanity, so to speak, by facilitating engaging sessions. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to staying in touch with you, and have a great Saturday.
All right, thank you. Elena, do you have anything before we close out?
No, just wanted to thank everybody and remind you to just stay engaged in the Facebook group and look for your tag.
All right, thanks everybody. You'll get the link when it's edited, and Kelsey will send that out in the next day or two. So thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, y'all.